hand over to him.
Welcome to the Irish NFL show in association with QuinBet on the Believe Network. It's draft night and we're live from the Arlington Hotel in Dublin for 3 hours of largely unscripted mayhem. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, not necessarily 1 o'clock in the morning where you are. We know, of course, a lot of you are watching us from the States, and we thank you all for tuning into us as we count down through the 32 picks in the 2026 NFL draft, which is live from just outside Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh. We're watching the live feed here just off camera, where Abe has set everything up beautifully for us here in the Arlington. Kieran Carroll and the team in the Arlington, of course, have been brilliant to us, as they always are, our partners here. Thanks Casey and Mariana, who set us up in the bar and looking after us as we prep for this year's draft coverage. It's our third time doing this, of course, with Brian O'Leary and Craig Rigdon joining me, Conor Brophy. Gents, it's great to have you here. And Craig, thank you in particular for your work of nerdistry. Craig has been on the PowerPoint. He's been printing out notes. He's got his little cue cards stacked perfectly squared off in front of them.
Those cue cards upside down, Conor?
In no way obsessively compulsive. No, the cue cards, unlike the Kieran O'Donovan special, are not upside down. That's a show in joke. Kieran went down in Cork, was with us here last year, but I'm going to have him back here, I'm sure, again for the 2027 draft. But taking a break here, a little time out. Ben, of course, I forgot to mention Ben is in the background here with us as well in Dublin, right the way through the night, as we will be for you as we count down through all of the 32 picks. The commissioner being lustily booed, which is the annual tradition of the draft, on stage in Pittsburgh, and doing that thing, Craig, where he says, "Come on, is that all you got?" Even though you can see him breaking like a child on the inside.
He loves playing the pantomime villain, doesn't he? I mean, the guy, you could feel it to begin with that he wasn't too sure about it, and now he just kind of embraces it. And fair play to him. It's a high-paid
embraces
job.
inverted commas.
Yes, yeah, embraces.
Courses and blinds thereafter.
Yeah, exactly. But fair play to him. He takes it on the chin, shall we say?
Ryan, before we get into the draft itself, and no real drama for the first pick, of course, because we know it's going to be Mendoza going to the Raiders with the first overall pick, the Indiana quarterback. But a little bit of pre-draft night drama, because Mike Vrabel, the head coach of the Patriots, for anyone who doesn't know this yet, had to do a hastily arranged press conference just before the draft started, appearing in front of the media in Boston to tell them that he's going to be taking the third night of the draft off to start attending counseling sessions, because more pictures emerged of him and the former athletic reporter Diana Ossini, who's lost her job over her association with Mike Vrabel following an internal investigation in The Athletic, which is owned by the New York Times. Ultimately, there's been questions, not enough questions, I would argue, about Mike Vrabel's involvement and his involvement in this. And Patriots not investigating, NFL not investigating, but more pictures emerging in the past 24 hours put a huge amount of pressure on him. Apparently, he wasn't going to be obtaining counselling before this, but now he has a problem.
It's damage control, is it, Connor? It's unusual to see a press conference take place a half an hour before arguably one of the biggest nights in the NFL calendar, because there's so many young players. This is their special night, and the Patriots and Vrabel have decided to construct a press conference a half an hour beforehand, in which all he said essentially was the same thing that was communicated in the media over the course of the last 24 to 36 hours. So what did we learn in the last half an hour? In fact, I said to you earlier this evening, because of the unusual timing, was he going to actually relieve himself of his services as the head coach? Because you touched on it. Some people suggested if Diana Rossini unfortunately lost her job at Gillette because of the circumstances around what's being speculated, why shouldn't Vrabel be on the hook for what he's done? But essentially now he's confirmed he's going to counselling this weekend. Connor, you won't be there on Saturday for the draft.
Well, take it from somebody who does this for a living and who has advised clients through plenty of crises, and you could probably list off the line to me yourself. What do you say? You need to get out in front of these things. Patriots didn't get out in front of this. Mike Vrabel didn't get out in front of it. It's quite the opposite, in fact. They literally laughed it off. He described any suggestion that he had an inappropriate relationship with Diana Rossini when she was a reporter, and he's the head coach, still the head coach of the New England Patriots, as, quote, laughable. Nobody's laughing now. He turned on the tears at the press conference earlier. Need to be a better man, need to be a better husband, better than the husband apparently he was just 24 hours ago when he didn't need to get counselling and everything was fine. Now he's taken off over the draft weekend, one of the biggest weekends of the year for him as head coach and his team. He's not the general manager, but Vrabel, as he was in Tennessee, intimately involved in who the Patriots are going to be picking. But, having to take one of those days off now, because this story is kind of starting to turn its screws on him in a way that it hasn't done up till now. Which
would lead me to think that there was further additional information about to be released to the general public, because he did his statement yesterday. He did his press conference yesterday. The first 3 minutes was essentially a statement of what's going on in the circumstances. And then last night, late into the night, our time, this additional information comes out around the counselling at the weekend. And now he's gone and doubled down in terms of a press conference. It strikes me as something else was in the offing. And as you said, now they are getting in front of it because the Patriots have lagged behind, shall we say, over the course of the last 10 days.
I mean, this time a year ago, Craig, we were looking at the Patriots as a team that nailed the draft, nailed free agency, turned their fortunes around, went from worst to first in the NFC East, playoff run, took them all the way to the Super Bowl. We were looking at them making the next steps. Then their offseason has been thrown off kilter. The whole draft process now, I mean, they'll pretty much know who they were picking and they've had a pretty good plan. And it's not like Elliot Wolf, as GM, is not going to be able to carry things through. But it is not what you want to be doing heading into one of the most important weekends of the year for any organization in the NFL.
No, and especially when you're still recovering from the heartbreak of that Super Bowl. At the end of the day, we were there. We saw what happened. You can see how dejected they all were after.
I'm going to tell you right now, because I was as close to Mike Vrabel as I am to you right now when he gave his press conference. He looked an awful lot more upset about that than he did about going off for counselling because of what he's done in front of his family.
Yeah, exactly. They've got a lot of things that they need to get right over the next few days, and they're going to need to take some heat off. And him sitting out that day 3 when, it tends to be the more jovial day of the NFL draft. We might get a few orangutans making picks like we have in previous years, but you never know. Mike Vrabel's going to miss out on all of that fun.
What's the over/under on orangutans, Brian? You're a great man for the odds.
2.5 to Saturday.
2.5 orangutans. Left turn, Clyde. That's an any which way but loose reference for anybody.
You're rewinding to last year in terms of where the Patriots were last year, and it's a great success. In fairness, okay, they lost in the Super Bowl, but they had a really successful season. Bear in mind, we're coming off a really difficult season. And this is the beauty of the NFL. We're going to see it tonight. Players are going to get selected. There's a team tonight that we're not aware of that's going to come with a huge run next season. But the Patriots spoke about this great collaborative piece to have between the GM and the head coach, and they put it all back together. And on the third day of the draft, where we've seen players, and certainly you're talking about various players in the 4th round onwards, who actually really contribute towards teams. Like, Saturday's a really important day as much as tonight and tomorrow is. And for him not to be there, you just wonder.
Saturday was the day when the LA Rams selected Puka Nacua a couple of years ago. We've seen players, Kyle Manungai for the Bears in the 5th round last year. Like, these gems come off the board, and the smart franchises managed to pick up value at that stage of the draft. At this stage of the draft, incidentally, the Raiders are on the clock, just over 4 minutes to make their pick. Sorry, this is some bullshit here. We all know who they're going to pick. And the guys on the phone, like theatrically in their draft room, who are you taking phone calls from? Nobody's trading up. You're not trading down. We know what you're doing, but
we know what they're doing here. They're sitting here on the pick, because 2 years ago when you were waiting for Williams to be selected by the Bears, you said they're holding forward to the very last minute in case some ridiculous offer comes from a GM at the very last minute who has a complete meltdown. And someone rings Las Vegas and says, "I'll give you 3 to 4 first rounders." "Oh, thanks very much, Mr. Mendoza. It's in." They've obviously got fed up listening to me and said, "Get that pick in quick."
The Irish NFL show lads are losing it. Let's get the pick in. With the first pick of the 2026 draft, Las Vegas Raiders select.
The beauty is they're actually already showing his content even prior to the clock starting. So if ever there was a given, it was this one.
It's no drama Obama for this one, that's for sure.
They are showing one of his best plays though, and the play that really kind of won me over in the college football final there, where against Miami, he takes that hit and he dives in, and you talk about a player who's putting his body on the line. It's kind of what the Raiders need.
And let's be fair, the pick is robbed of all drama. We've known for some time that this is what was going to happen. But let's not take anything away from his story, from the Hoosier story from last season. It's not only that they were a great story and that he had a great season, a Heisman Trophy winning season, but it's the personality he showed, it's the drive, it's the kind of player that you want for a team that's been in the doldrums and been where the Raiders have been. I mean, they were hopeless last year. They looked like they weren't trying. And we had talked about them before the season started, Brian, as maybe a team in a very exciting division with head coaches, all of whom had won Super Bowls or been to Super Bowls. Pete Carroll and what he could do with them. And it was so flat last year, and it was just so poor.
When you think back to when the Seahawks traded Russell Wilson away, and then when we think back to when they decided that it was time to move on from Pete Carroll, you wonder, did they just feel like he was running out of legs in terms of his head coaching ability to kind of, he was always this type of head coach that would rally the troops and everyone would be behind him. It was very evident from large parts of last season that really wasn't the case, and there hasn't been any kind of speculation as to him coming back. It just felt like it was a lost season. Geno Smith struggled. Geno Smith's now with the team who were picking second in the draft, because kind of that's where the draft actually starts. So it's the second pick, but that's an unknown.
And the committee is on stage, and he has now officially announced that. So put us all out of our misery. There's Fernando, basking in the moment.
Didn't go
to the draft. Wanted to spend it with his family, which is very much Craig in keeping with the kind of character that Fernando Mendoza is. Very strong on the God question, very strong on the family question. And there with the Mendoza clan. And it's a brilliant moment. What an amazing moment for it. It's not just him, it transforms all of their fortunes.
Yeah, I don't mind the whole home thing personally. I think when you can see some of these players and the sacrifices that they do make to make it into this league, and they put their body on the line across college while doing many other things. They have to attend classes and everything like that. They really do put everything together for one night, essentially.
Bask in the adulation of everyone on campus, much like our own college days.
Yeah, we were definitely the jocks, aren't we? But
no further questions.
But no, I actually really do like the fact that they will show them at home, and we'll get it more as you go through day 2 and day 3, and I think that's where it becomes more relevant. But there are a lot of more players who are shirking the idea of coming to the draft and being in that green room. Maybe some of them it's risk averse and they don't want to be that player that sits in, like Aaron Rodgers did all those years ago. The camera focused on him after every single pick, and maybe that's what they don't want anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Steve Weiss, NFL Network, was on us last year, and he spoke about the fact that they've gone from 25 down to 15 last year, 17 this year. The NFL want to get away from that spotlight. I don't think it's doing the players any favor. Where they say they drop down the board and the camera's continuously running them. Look at Sanders last year, and that was the talk of Thursday night, Friday night, and then obviously Saturday. Was it the 4th or 5th round?
Well, it's interesting, as you say, because it's starting to transform the way players look at the combine as well. The whole pre-draft process now is turned on its head, from go and show out at the combine, go and appear on the night, and build up the drama. And it was a spectacle for all of us, but not necessarily the best thing for the players. Now going to the combine is largely what you do if you need to try and enhance your draft stock. Anybody who's pretty sure that they're going in the first round and pretty sure they're not going to change the order in which they're picked only has something to lose if they attend the combine. So a lot of players don't go.
Yeah, it's mostly now there for interviews. There are a lot of players who will take it as interviews only, and they'll meet with teams, and then what you'll find is that you'll see did not participate in across every drill. They did the same at their pro days, and they're now reliant on the tape that they're setting on the field. And there are certain players who can do that, but then there are other players who will be able to move up draft boards purely because they've got that gift of the gab, shall we say, in the terms of someone like a Sonny Styles, who really not only performed at the combine, but then nailed all his interviews by what you hear, and he's the riser. So, it's risk averse again on that side, but it can benefit certain players as well.
I find, Brian, even as fans or NFL observers, the combine is now more about free agency and what you hear from GMs and coaches there, and the rumor mill that builds up around it. And then you occasionally are interrupted, as Craig said, by, oh, well, look, that was some vertical by Sonny Styles, or player nails his interview and starts shooting up the draft hype stakes.
Yeah, well, the first few days, the head coach and GMs are mandated to do the press conference, and usually there's nuggets of information for all teams that's coming out, because there's always one player that they're concerned about, whether they're moving on, are they going to re-sign them, certain players are on the draft that they're chasing. And it tends to be the week in which a lot of the agents are there and they're negotiating deals. We're talking about this tampering period on a Monday, kind of before free agency essentially starts on a Wednesday. But a lot of the deals are in place come here. The Jets pick is in. Here we go.
Well, yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. The Jets pick is in, and this is going to be a really interesting one. Is it Arvell Reese? Is it David Bailey? It's been flip-flopping all week long, lads. I'm going to get you to nail your colours to the mast. Brian, who is it going to be?
This is one of the most difficult. This is flip-flopped all week. I'll stick with my gut, which is Bailey. But over the course of the last 2 hours, they seem to think it's Reese. But
I do think it's Bailey. I think he's the better all-round prospect in the terms of what he can offer now. I think Reese is a bit more projection-based. And I think for the Jets to get better, they need to take the safer pick, and that would be Bailey.
Yeah, I'm going to say Bailey as well. Ben, what do you think?
Connor, I want people to continue to watch the show tonight. So we're getting picks wrong at number 2. We're in for a long night. So.
We're in for a long night, one way or the other. Abe, give you a chance to call it as well. Reese or Bailey? Right, so Ben's the only outlier here. We'll see if he turns out to be the one person who's right. And I remember, Brian, when we did this the first time we were in Cork 3 years ago. It was our first live draft watch along, and it was the most predictable top 10 picks. We'd all been saying, oh, there'll be trades all over the place. People are going to be moving up and down. It's going to be mayhem. And they just went exactly according to every single mock draft for the first 10. Here's the commissioner coming to the stage now to announce the Jets pick at number 2 overall in the 2026 NFL draft. It's going to be Bailey or Reese. With which one?
There we go.
It is David Bailey.
David Bailey.
And that, Craig, is, if you listen to the cognoscenti, probably the more reliable pick that the Jets could have made, to your point. Like, Reese, as brilliant and all and as talented as he is more about the projection, more about what you think he could be. People kind of squint and think, well, this guy could be another Micah Parsons. You can do a lot of things with him if you're a talented defensive coordinator and you're willing to give him a year or two to play with his hand in the dirt, maybe in a way that he hadn't in college. And he's, being chalked up as this potentially generationally talented pass rusher, but that's not what he did in college. He moves around across the formation. Yeah. Bailey looks like the pure option in that regard, and that's the way the Jets have gone.
Yeah, and he is a pure ball rusher. Like, that man will literally just fire through long strides straight at you, and good luck, basically. But, there is a slight knock on him that he doesn't have a great repertoire of pass rush moves. He doesn't have those spin moves or the kind of dupes that a lot of the others do. It is purely a ball rush, but Aaron Glenn's going to be over the moon. That's kind of what he wants. He likes his edge rushes in a very specific way, and I think that David Bailey probably fits that profile a lot better than what Reese does. And like we said, you just can't take the risk on somebody who plays edge and off-ball linebacker and try and figure that out when the Jets need to improve now.
Long strides, he says, but it looks like he was taking a lot of long strides to find the podium. It was a bit of a walk from the green room, Connor. Just to point, Craig. Jets need impact players. We obviously are aware of. They need impact players immediately hitting the ground running. And I know Reese looks like a great player. And Kieran Boyle, stateside, has spoke about. Reese is the kind of player that if you're in a position where you made the playoffs and you can manage him and develop him, Bailey's the kind of guy that can go in and can make an immediate impact to the Jets. We hope, because the Jets, we hope for Kieran Boyle's sake, Grant Green come back and start giving us a few wins. Yeah.
We should point out that the Jets, one of 5 teams that have 2 first-round picks. It's the Jets, Browns, your Giants, of course, lads. Let's not
Who?
forget the Dolphins. The Dolphins and the Cowboys all have 2 first-round picks, which potentially raises some trade speculation later on. Chiefs, sorry, the other one I should have mentioned, who are probably the most likely, and we'll talk about this a lot more now when the Cardinals are on the clock, because the Cardinals and the Chiefs being talked about very strongly in a lot of quarters as the most likely trade candidates. Would the Chiefs move up to 3 now and potentially take Arvell Reese, who's still on the board? They do need that pass rusher. They haven't given Steve Spagnuolo much to play around with in the last couple of years, Brian. He's had to mix and mash to try and send the defense out in the field, and largely done a brilliant job of that. But it's pressure on the Chiefs now to make a decision here about whether they want to move up. Cardinals have been potentially blown a lot of a smokescreen around. Well, maybe we're interested in Jeremiah Love to try and, you would think, wheedle out that trade. Yeah,
you spoke on Monday's show about the enormity of what the Cards have ahead of them in terms of how many players they actually need, how many positions they need. And whilst Jeremiah Love looks like a fantastic player in his own right, you kind of, Joe said, please don't send him to Arizona. We saw what happened to Genti last year. They've no offensive line. Essentially, they've got a quarterback in Jacoby Brissett who's at the wrong end of his career. The right thing to do potentially to trade out, get more selections. It's funny you should say the Chiefs, because I do think there's something in the offing. And like I've even spoke to Matt Derrick, he really thinks that the Chiefs might try to make a move from Nia. But he was suggesting it was offensive line they were going to go after as opposed to defense, because they feel back to those. I've
heard that from more than one reporter, Craig, and I think McShay on the Ringer podcast was saying the same thing. At some point in the first round, there's going to be a run on offensive tackles. There's a lot of teams that are offensive tackle needy. The Commanders are one I can think of, the Chargers another, the Bears another. They pick a lot later on in the first round, and somebody's going to pull the trigger when they start seeing the first 1 or 2, Mauangoa, maybe, or Fanu coming off the board.
Yeah, and I think if you listen to a lot of the different shows, different podcasts out there, there is that kind of sweet spot at number 17 where the Lions are for offensive tackles, because the Lions are clearly going to take an offensive tackle. That is their pick. So do a lot of those teams after them need to jump them, and that's where it's going to come from. The biggest issue you've got is these teams at the top end of this board are there for a reason, and that is they need impact players. In a draft where there's only so many blue chip players, you really need to have that risk reward of getting those extra picks to fill out a roster, or whether you want those impact players that can change your roster now, despite the fact that there's only going to be a few of them in that case.
I mean, you're talking up one of my favorite themes now, which is the volume of picks is important, and I don't think can be underestimated. Teams that do well consistently over a long period of time are teams that use their draft picks to draft players. The Ravens do this. The Packers do this. The Ravens legendarily know how to accumulate compensatory picks, and they guard them very, very zealously. We talked about this around the abortive Max Crosby trade. Ravens do not like giving up picks to facilitate trades, and they're almost allergic to do it, and then they end up backing out of the Max Crosby trade. Albeit that they then sent one of those picks for Trey Hendrickson, but you need to kiss a lot of frogs to find a prince in this game, and the Cardinals are very much in that mode at the moment.
Yeah, I just want to bring up a comment that's in the chat at the moment where someone said Connor and Brian go Reese the Twitter top 10 pick graphics, and then Bailey on the live.
Yeah, gun to the head, we're very different people. That's very true. You see our true colours. The Cardinals pick is in incidentally, so there was no trade.
Top 10 or the mock drafts?
Yeah.
I was Bailey on the mock drafts, I beg your pardon. Actually,
I was clearly drinking Baileys in the mock draft and got it completely wrong.
Huh? Did I? I apologise. Who's showing that comment? Who's asking that question?
But, I mean, in case you missed that, lads.
Huh?
Jay Ongar.
In case you missed that, lads, the Cardinals pick is actually in, so they didn't trade it, so they may well be.
So is it Love? Are you in love with a running back?
Or will they go Jeremiah Love?
It's Love or Reese here, and I just don't think you can nail your colours to either side here, because the Love talk has been happening for so many days now.
Oh, Love has gone at 3.
There it is.
They did it.
Now it's getting spicy.
The draft starts now.
Okay. So the Cardinals are
try and get Love on that.
Yeah. So the Love train has left the station.
I'll take that song off my Spotify now. I've been listening for the last week. I've been sending it from yesterday.
Great. This is interesting in and of itself. The Arizona Cardinals already have 11 million. You were just talking about going in here. 11 million in their salary cap committed to quite an expansive running back room. Several of whom are now crying because they're not going to be getting much game time as they run the tires off Jeremiah Love next year.
I mean, you're looking at a position that was fifth on their list of team priorities here in a running back. And yeah, they are getting a generational player. There is a lot of people who are saying that they are more excited about Jeremiah Love than they were Ashton Gentry, and they put him on the same sort of pedestal that they have Bijan Robinson. But you're right, they have James Conner, who has had injury issues, is starting to get on a little bit. We were laughing earlier at Tyler Algier, who's now gone to the Cardinals thinking he's going to be a running back one. And he's
similar circumstance when he was in Atlanta.
Exactly that. They bring him in 1 year, the next year they bring in Bijan, he gets demoted to 2, and it's happened again to him. I just feel like this is just a bit of a strange pick for the Cardinals.
I'll throw it out there, Connor. Like, they're in a very difficult division. We were talking about it earlier. We were suggesting will even the Rams, 49ers, and Super Bowl champion Seahawks come out of the division.
Yeah.
They need to impact players. If they want to get challenging in the division and put defenses on the back foot within the division, and actually because everybody's beating the Cardinals, on the road and at home last season within the division. Yeah. They need to have some players in there that the other teams are going to go in there and say, we really have to deal with him, and that's absolutely what's going to be the case.
Well, we say, are you in a position to take best player available? And ideally, you should be taking best player available. That's the way to build your roster. No, they're not. But you don't want to be looking back in 3 or 4 years' time and looking at this guy running amok for another team and thinking, we had him, we had the chance at him. And let's face it, GMs get judged in the rearview mirror all the time. It's the picks that they don't make to come back to get them. I know this all too well in Chicago, where the Ryan Pace era as GM was overshadowed by the fact that he traded up to take Mitch Trubisky and left Patrick Mahomes on the board. That's not something you're ever going to live down as a general manager. And if this guy is as good as everybody says he is, well, why not?
Give you another example. Giants trade out to the Bears that time when you moved up for Justin Fields. Giants go back to 1920, take Kadarius Toney. Next pick after the Giants trade out, Micah Parsons. Yeah. They could have Micah Parsons wrecking ball in the NFC. So, yeah, you're right. It's not necessarily about who you select on the night. It's who you didn't select.
Even the legendary Harry Roseman in Philadelphia, a guy who's built a Super Bowl winning roster, a team that's gone to 3 Super Bowls under his watch, winning 2 of them, passed on Justin Jefferson to take Jalen Reagor. Where's Jalen Reagor now?
I mean, see the Vikings GM team laughing. Do you remember they actually showed them actually laughing? Can't believe it. They didn't take him.
I just want to go back to this Jeremiah Love thing. 2 of the needs above running back for the Cardinals were offensive guard and offensive tackle. 2 positions that can directly impact the running back position into opening up holes. And I think that's my biggest problem with this. And we're going to have this throughout the night where players are going to be selected to teams where it's not going to make as much sense. But, I mean, it was on the cards all week. This kind of came out.
Intended.
Yeah, it was on the cards all week, and apparently they love him. But
it must be love.
It must be love. but they've gone and done it, and if it pays off for them, then they look like kings. But it's the proof will be in the pudding.
This actually throws the Titans off kilter forward, isn't it? Because for such a long period, it was like the Titans are taking love. I know we were joking about when you get the 5 of the Giants, because everybody essentially felt it was 4 for the Titans. Now you're in a situation with the Titans. Are they going to go Sonny Styles?
Yeah, you got Sonny Styles on the board. You still got Arvell Reese on the board. Maybe the Chiefs are looking at the Titans now, potential trade partners, and maybe the Titans take a risk that they could still maybe grab Sonny Styles a bit further down, depending on what happens with those other picks. There's a risk reward in here potentially for the Titans that we weren't necessarily thinking about before the draft. The Titans have made their pick. Just the 8-minute turnaround really is making a difference, isn't it? I feel like there's not enough time for us to be expansive.
No, it's pretty relentless right now. I get the feeling that if the Titans take Sonny Styles here, the Giants probably start fielding calls.
That's what I was going to say. Arvell Reese at 5, where the Giants are with Thibodeau, Carter, Brian Burns. Do you need to go Arvell Reese, who's a developmental player? Back to the point you made earlier, the Giants need impact players as much as the Jets do. Do the Giants actually trade out? That's an interesting one to go. The picks are coming in quite rapidly, and this 8-minute thing has changed the dynamic already of this draft.
No, it really has. Like you can see the difference that it's made, and I guess it speeds up the decision-making time in the draft room as well. I mean, we're talking about it from the commentary point of view, but in those rooms, like those 2 minutes are obviously meaningful. That's one less phone call. One phone call you're not going to either be able to make or field. So you got to make that call pretty quickly, and that's what the teams have been doing. They're not even in some cases taking all 8 minutes, even as it is. But it's, as you're talking about it, and I was reminded of this earlier when you were talking about what the Jets would do and needing an impact player right now. So much of this comes down to situation. We talk about it from a player point of view. We talk about it from a team point of view. If you're Arbel Reese, for instance, you're probably breathing a sigh of relief that the Jets didn't take. I mean, if you're most players, you're taking a sigh of relief that the Jets didn't take you. But if you're not going to be given time to develop, if you're going for an organization that doesn't have the time to develop you, it's not going to work out well. Commissioner, just at the podium now to announce the Titans pick.
Whoa!
Wow. Okay.
God,
Yeah.
that is.
This is all going against the grain now. I love it. Yeah, Carnell Tate to the Titans, a weapon
God,
for
the
Cam Ward.
The Giants are like, sorry, it's Titans for now.
Calm down, Titans.
It's not all about the Giants.
We'll get our flowers.
There's
We'll get
not-
our flowers.
Yeah. Welcome to our 2026 3 hours of Giants, featuring occasionally the other 31 teams in the NFL.
The hate for Tate was not necessarily true, Connor, because we touched on it earlier on this evening when we were chatting. Over the course of the last 6 weeks, since we started kind of getting ready for the draft, Carnell Tate was like the standout wide receiver to be the number one. And Jordan Tyson wasn't even necessarily in the conversation of going in the top 16. And over the course of last week, since his pro day in Arizona, all of a sudden it's flip-flopped. And this morning with Quinbet, Tyson was the favorite to go first. So to see Carnell take what he's kind of go, no, we knew all along he was the number one wide receiver. That was our instinct.
But this is and this is one of those selections. We've now seen 2 of them in a row, which changed the calculus for the rest of the teams in the top 10.
Yeah.
And we're going to see movement here, and we're going to see plans being shifted immediately, because there are other wide receiver needy teams now who will be looking. Mackay Lemon, possibly the next one to come off the board. Maybe, as you say, Jordan Tyson, the guy who's been getting all the buzz in the past 48, 72 hours, haven't been kind of had that asterisk over his name, where we talked about him, Craig, as being possibly the most talented wide receiver in the class, but an injury risk because of the shoulder reconstruction that he's had to have over the past season. Getting a lot of buzz. He could be off the board. The Rams, who've been widely tipped as maybe one player away from the Super Bowl, looking to fill the room at wide receiver. Maybe Mackay Lemon. Still have Jordan Tyson on the board here, but there's a couple of those teams that could go wide receiver, or they could go, in that vaunted offensive tackle class that we've been talking about. We could see the offensive tackle run starting pretty soon.
You could see an offensive tackle run starting soon. You could see a wide receiver run starting soon. Like, you look at the Giants need wide receiver help. The Browns need wide receiver help. The Washington Commanders do. The Saints do. Like,
and let's not forget that we got Caleb Down still on the board. We got Sonny Styles still on the board. We still got Arbel Reese on the board. Somebody's going to get themselves a real impact defensive player that they weren't maybe expecting to fall to.
Yeah. Can I just say about Cam Ward last year? We spoke time and time again about, as the season progressed, you could see the attributes as to why he was the number one pick in the draft last year in terms of quarterback. He was going to go overshadowed because Jackson Dart's success, bear in mind he was picked late in the first round. But we also spoke that he had nobody there whatsoever. Like, he'd no wide receivers. Now this offseason they got Robinson in from the Giants. Now they've taken in a marquee wide receiver in the draft. All of a sudden, you've got an explosive offense there for a quarterback that looks like, if he has the right players around, could really flourish.
Who's picking a 5?
So the team who are picking a 5 have the option of Reese, Styles, Downs. That's just if they want to go defense, of course.
That's if they just want to go Ohio State defense. Like, that's 3 players from Ohio State that they have.
It makes the decision really difficult, doesn't it?
The table is nearly levitating here, lads. Giants fans are getting very excited. The New York Football Giants are on the trot.
Down to 8 or 9 and still have the same player available.
Well, Craig, you were saying that we could be in a situation very easily where you could see the Giants getting to double dip if the Chiefs trade up and they trade down, get to go at 9 and 10. Yeah. Because there's a selection now unfolding that, as we were saying, leaves a couple of players to the back end of that top 10 you might not have expected based on what we were hearing in the 24 hours before the draft to happen. Again, you see the smoke screen in full effect. Some GMs speaking the truth, some GMs speaking in tongues to try and maybe force other teams into making a move that is more beneficial to them in the long run.
They made the pick.
Giants pick is in.
So who do we think? It's so difficult. Like, I'm trying to work out.
Just the heat in the room, lads. I'm taking off the hoodie here.
The Chiefs are trading up with the Browns. The Chiefs have come up to 6.
Okay.
And they're taking a break.
They're
Disappointed.
taking a break. We're not taking a break.
We're allowed to talk through the break, lads.
I mean,
So the Chiefs
keep
have moved
going.
up from 9 to 6, which makes you. They're definitely coming off.
So we aren't taking Argyle Reese then. I get the feeling that the Chiefs are coming up now because they know that the Giants aren't going to take Argyle Reese and they will take them. So for me, this is going to be either Sonny Styles or Downs. I think that's the only way that the Giants can go. They need an impact player on defense. We've both seen it in person. We've seen it week after week. We've seen it year after year. The Giants' defense has been porous for way too long. And you've got two blue chip players there who, in Sonny Styles, who they're calling, Fred Warner-esque, which is a massive, massive compliment and, a little bit of weight on the kid's shoulders. But that's something the Giants have missed for a long time, is a very dominant linebacker. Yeah. Or someone like Caleb Downs, who is known apparently as just a lockdown in that backfield to the point where he will be a almost instant captain.
I'm going to stick with Sonny Styles, Connor, because that was what I believe last week when we discussed it, and you listened to what Craig said over the last week on that show alongside Kieran, and they're convinced by Sonny Styles. I am as well. But over the course of the last week, the Caleb Downs piece has come into the equation. He's going to rise up the boards again. So it's a really
you got Caleb Downs still on the board. You got Mansour, who we haven't even mentioned yet. Again, somebody's going to look themselves into a quality defensive pick here. So you're talking about the Browns trading with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Chiefs coming up to get that blue chip defensive player. Browns still in position, most likely to get the offensive lineman of their dreams. And what's that going to do from the Commanders' perspective? I think it's really interesting as regards what they do now. I think it throws them into a bit of a tizzy.
I think whatever the domino effect here. Assuming
it's
Downs or Styles, I think whatever falls out of those equation will go to the Commanders.
But did they go wide receiver then, maybe?
I don't think so. I think that the choice between Styles and Downs makes perfect sense.
Did they go wide receiver? I don't think so. It's just the guy who has wide receiver as the number one need.
Yes,
is that the Craig Rigdon smoke screen? Is it you were trying to throw me off?
This isn't the Craig Rigdon, draft needs priority. This is off. PFSN is their list. I just think safety makes so much sense that everyone was, saying that Jeremiah Love was going to go there. I just feel like if Caleb Downs is there, they're making that pick because they need to get better.
Do you know the pick?
I don't know the pick. No.
I'll tell you what I do know. Sky's ads are taking a long, long time.
The itchiness of Giants fans is on full display here.
the look on the lads' faces as they're looking through the SNL promo instead of finding out what's happening in the draft where the New York Football Giants pick is in.
Scary Terry's getting on, no? In age.
Oh, McLaren?
Yeah.
Yeah, we said that last week. We were doing the NFC's preview, yeah.
Let us see the drama.
The commissioner's gone missing as well.
He's being blocked by Evan Neal.
Oh, here he comes. No, he's coming out. He has an audience.
An entourage now.
Yeah.
Who's making the pick for the Giants?
Last chance to do. Connor, go.
I'm going to go Sonny Styles.
And they zip through the first 4 picks, Connor, and then they're dragging the life out of this one.
Because they know.
Yeah, they know.
This is like watching the Giants play. We've suddenly slowed it all up, but it was a really exciting
Not for
game
much
up to this
longer,
point.
Connor. Not for much longer. That was the first real kind of stunner, wasn't it? Like, I know Love was kind of here and there on I think it's gone to the Cardinals. Here we go.
Wow. I see. I'm going to go. I'm going to go in on this straight away because
Nobody had Argyle Reese at 5.
I don't see the fit here unless Kayvon Thibodeau is being traded for more picks later on, because the edge rushing room for the Giants is already quite saturated.
Yeah.
We did say that he's a projection. He can play edge. He can play inside linebacker. That's a very similar thing to what was touted last year when we took Abdul Carter, and the fact that he can also do both. But I don't know. This just feels like one of those picks where you're taking something you already have.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, Craig, this is also like, I know now that it's made, it's as clear as day to me. It's a very John Harbaugh pick. They loaded up at the Ravens in exactly this type of player.
I guess they're also probably
like when they traded for Roquan Smith in Baltimore, people were like, "Well, what's he going to do there?" And it was transformative.
Yeah, well, he's built defenses, strong defenses, and stacked it with defensive players in various different positions. I guess half an hour ago we were suggesting Arvell Reese was going to be the first pick in the draft outside of the quarterback, which was a given in Mendoza, and all of a sudden he's going to 5. So you could argue best player available. Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's one thing that was quoted yesterday. Harbaugh said last week. Sometimes it's not about where you need a player; it's about best player available. Obviously, that's the case.
Yeah, and that was like I remember this discussion at the time when Roquan Smith was traded from the Bears to the Ravens. People were saying, "Oh, off-ball linebacker is not a premium position. They're paying him like it's a premium position. Great move for the Bears." Then about half a dozen games, Bears fans were crying, going, "Why do we get rid of Roquan Smith? He's the best off-ball linebacker in the league."
Maybe there's a suggestion that they feel that one of the other defensive players that we're touting as in downs and styles may drop to 10. Maybe they double dip defensively. You wouldn't be giving out the game away with Reese and down.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's just I think on the surface of what this pick is, and bear in mind that this is the Giants pick. This is the one they earned de facto. This isn't the one that they got from the trade. This is the one they earned.
Go to pieces for Reese's.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's an odd one. I mean, he is a raw, powerful player.
Knockback power is the headline on the screen there.
Is the Chiefs thinking, Connor? Because your point there is the Chiefs will probably come up to 16, assuming Giants are going to go styles down.
Now it's falling to them. Chiefs may not need to move up at all. Like Chiefs may end up with Sonny Styles could be the guy. It could be Mansour Delane.
Or are they getting ahead of the tackle side of things? They did. Andy Reid has said he wants to protect Patrick Mahomes.
That's a good point.
He is $1 million man, or many millions, more than one, in the terms of his contract. But maybe that's what he wants to do. He said he has sleepless nights thinking about how they are going to protect Patrick Mahomes, and maybe they are just getting ahead of the curve here to take whoever they want to take.
And before we move off the Giants, what are the Giants going to do at 10 now?
Jordan Tyson.
I'm not convinced. I think they may go defense again.
Caleb Downs.
Yeah. I mean, at one stage we're talking about Styles.
Well, it's definitely not going to be Sonny Styles now, you would think.
I would imagine the Commanders will take Sonny Styles at 7.
Yeah.
That would be my gut. Tyson maybe the Saints 8. Browns at 9 taking that offensive line. If
you've got to think wide receiver to the Saints.
There is a scenario that Downs falls to the Giants at 10.
Yeah.
The Giants need more defensive players than they do offensive, in my opinion. So you go Downs there.
Trade.
Interesting to see what the return was for the Browns.
So the Browns getting the Chiefs' 9th overall pick and 2 third-round selections. A 3rd and a 5th round selections in exchange for trading out of the 6th overall pick, which is now in for the Chiefs. So we'll hear very quickly who the Chiefs are actually trading up for.
It's interesting though because they actually kept hold of their 2nd first rounders. So they didn't give up that selection. And the 3rd and the 5th doesn't actually seem like that bad of kind of fodder to be able to give away just to move up. What did they move up 3 spaces there?
Yeah, but it's 3 picks to 1 for 3 spaces of a movement as well. So whoever they're selecting is a player that they really believe in.
It kind of strikes you as a Chiefs. You kind of get that sense that the Chiefs were so used to winning. And so used to challenging, and so used to winning the playoffs, and not necessarily winning the Super Bowl every year, but it was a given that they would be in the playoffs, if not the AFC Championship game. And it's really hit them hard last year, and they're trying to put it right now.
But you heard the quote from Brett Veach, which is, "We don't expect to be selected in the top 10 for a long time, so we're going to make this count." Mansour Delane.
They came up for the cornerback.
That's a big
surprise.
move. I mean, But they must have felt that someone else was going to take him off the board, because you would think that he was going to fall to them.
Yeah. I don't think I'd had mocked Mansell Delaney anywhere under 10.
So who did they think was going to take him? Did they think the Commanders were going to take him?
He was touted at 9 to the Chiefs for a long time. So why is he?
I don't get that. It looked like he was going to be there.
My gut is that they came up thinking they were going to get Reese at 6, and he was the second next player available on their board.
Yeah,
So, okay, we're here now. We'll take it.
Either that, or they've got intel that maybe the Cowboys, who have been touted as somebody as being aggressive to go up, and a team who have a lot of defensive needs, maybe wanted to go up for a cornerback themselves. Got word that there was talks between the Browns and the Cowboys, and they decided to take that to the next level. But then again, Jerry Jones is a pretty hard negotiator when it comes to trades like this, and I would imagine he probably was offering something better than that than what the Browns walked away with from the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, that's a head scratcher. Like, that's something that you expect the Falcons to do. It's not something you
Poor Falcons get
from the Jets and South. Poor old Falcons.
Yeah, but it just struck me as a player. Every mock draft or every various different report or podcast just over the course of the year, he was in that sweet spot between 9 and 12.
No,
suggested the Cowboys at 12.
I like your theory. I think they were licking their chops thinking, "Oh my God, Arvell Reese will be there."
So the Commanders are really onto it. The Commanders must be sitting there going to go, the biscuits are going over here now.
Yeah, Ben literally caught with his hand in the cookie jar off camera there.
So the Commanders, the Styles, so there was a report this week, and it came from, I think, Todd McShay, which said Dan Quinn was absolutely convinced we're going defense. We saw firsthand in Madrid how poorly we were defensively this season compared to the previous year.
Before we move on to the Commanders, to your point, Craig, Andy Reid was very vocal about wanting an O-lineman, and his GM has taken a defensive player off the board, which will delight Steve Spagnuolo, as we say, who has had very little to play with by way of talent and has worked near miracles with what he had available to him. Does give him now arguably the best cornerback available in the draft, premium position, talented player to make up for Trent McDuffie, who they traded to the Rams in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their cornerback room. I'm just looking at it here: Noel Williams, Christian Fulton, Kayla Kadu at slot, who they brought in from Miami. They lost their 2 starting cornerbacks, both to the Los Angeles Rams. So they definitely needed to upgrade the position. And it does make sense, but it does stink of we thought Reese would be there.
Yeah, no, I think very much so. All the O-linemen then still on the board. Again, a lot of teams further down the draft order now crossing their fingers and saying this could be playing into our hands.
The Cowboys 12 might be thinking they're going to get one of these guys.
Somebody gets a run at Sonny Styles now who might not have expected him. Caleb Downs still on the board too. A lot of players who need help in the safety position. We may now see, I would suspect, the possibility of another trade for somebody to move up to take him off the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just as we say that, the pick is in there. I banged the table during our NFC's preview that the most sense here was Caleb Downs, just because of the defense and what Washington need, and they need to get younger at some of these positions. So it does make the most sense, but they do have their pick now of 2 phenomenal defensive players.
And this is, there's 2 sides to this. Again, as we've been saying, there's perhaps more choice than you might have expected for some of these teams on the board and changing their calculus a little bit. There's also more pressure on these picks now because you've got your choice of one of 2 blue chip players. You've got your choice of either a blue chip offensive or a blue chip defensive player in this instance. And the judgment is going to be harsh if you get it wrong down the line.
I imagine they look at their whiteboard and tells them, okay, we assume we'll be taking that player. He's gone. And all of a sudden, these players are still sitting at the top of their board as their original top 10 board, top 20. And then all of a sudden, it's making the decision a lot more difficult. Jerome Bettis on the. So Kieran at home there in Cork, if you're still watching it, you can see Jerome Bettis there now. He'll be thinking back to his time back in Croke Park in the airbox pre-Steelers Vikings, where we had to escort Jerome Bettis from St. John's Road into Croke Park. and the mosh were asking, who's that in there? Oh, it's Jerome Bettis. And then, they didn't know who those guys were, as in me and Kieran.
We're ripping through the top 10 picks here, apart from the 3 hours that the Giants took to make their pick. And we're already up to lucky number 7, and the Commanders' pick is in. And we're going to hear from the commissioner imminently of who exactly that's going to be. So, Sonny finally does go away. Sonny, don't go away. He's gone to the Commanders at 7, right?
Yeah, it may not be sunny in Philadelphia. Is that the program, Connor? I felt
He's
that
been lining that one up for
I've
the
been
last
lining it
3
for
hours.
weeks. Like, so, unfortunately, I thought it would be the Giants. I'd be mentioning it because, like, he's a huge impact player. We spoke about it earlier and spoke about it on our NFC East preview round. Whoever gets him is getting a player truly impacting from day one. So it's what you could argue the Commanders really need. We saw them go off kilter, in particular defense. No, they had a lot of injuries last year, but they need a player like that, like a Fred Warner type player, as Craig's alluded to earlier, to go in, solidify that, and put Dan Quinn. Like, we 2 years removed from the Commanders in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, and now Craig, I mean, effectively Dan Quinn is coaching for his job.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at their linebacker room. Last year they had Bobby Wagner, they had Lugu as well. 2 older side, or on the older side, shall I say, linebackers who they need to get younger at that position.
Craig is much more respectful talking about age now that he hangs around with himself.
I do feel like a spring chicken this evening.
Himself and Ben being the average age of the great guys.
But it makes perfect sense, this pick, because of the fact that they do need to get younger at that position. They need somebody who can not just make an impact now, like someone like Bobby Wagner did for them, who was still performing amazingly well at the age that he was, even though he was younger than I am. And now they're going to get somebody in who will anchor that defense for 10 plus years.
But this guy, just to refer back to a brief discussion we had earlier when you watched him at the combine, incredible athleticism, just superhuman vertical leap. And you can see he's probably needs to put a little bit of meat on that frame, as Kieran Boyle would say. He's still very rangy. He looks more like a basketball player than a football player, but very, very exciting prospect, and the kind of player that Dan Quinn will love having available too.
What they actually have here as well is somebody who has played safety as well. Sonny Styles played safety previously, so you're looking at a linebacker who not only can tackle and tackles well, because of the fact that he only had 2 missed tackles throughout last season in college. And that both those came in the final game as well. So by the time that some of these players have checked out a little bit. But you're looking at a player who has played safety, can tackle well, but can also cover. And that was one of the underrated things that a lot of people are saying about Sonny Styles, is that his coverage skills, especially against tight ends, very, very good.
I mean, it's a copycat league, and we're only 2 months removed from the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl on the back of a defense stacked with highly athletic, very, very fast players who can fulfill numerous roles within a chimera of a defense that's capable of showing you one thing and then doing something completely different, and players really being able to adapt and do special things on the fly, like in Nick and Worry. The Seahawks took off the board, if I'm not mistaken, in this position in the draft, or near enough to it this time last year, Brian.
Yeah, you would think Adam Peters, the GM, was saying we need to get the versatility back in defense, the player that can come in and do various different positions at appropriate times in games, that they can move them around. But they've been lacking in players, even in that NFC run we spoke about that off season, and would they double dip defensively? They didn't really. I think they probably learned the hard way last year, that they need to get players in, and the players who can not necessarily have to have a combination of players in all different positions, but players that can go in various spots in games and play different positions, and he's going to do that. He's fantastic. Saints, is it? Saints next?
Saints alive, yeah. Saints are on the board.
Playing for a Saint. Wide receiver.
I think it's got to be wide receiver or maybe even edge. You look at the fact that they've now lost Cameron Jordan. They have Chase Young there. They're going to need somebody opposite him. Someone like Reuben Bain Jr. could make sense to the Saints here. And then you look at wide receiver. We have Mekhi Lemon and Jordan Tyson both still available. They only have Chris Olave really, and outside of that, it is a very, very worrying wide receiver room, especially seeing as the player who is at the Seahawks, who my mind just gone blank on. Rashid Shaheed has now gone to the Seahawks. He was still their second leading wide receiver by the end of the season. So they need to improve there somehow. I think it's between edge and wide receiver, but I'll probably tip my hat towards that receiving.
No household names in the wide receiver room. Tipton, Veal, Kevin Austin Jr., Polk. Bub Means, very little play last year. Connor. But yeah, just an obvious to stand there.
Bug means they need a wide receiver.
Yeah. Bubba, was again when he came last season. But like, there's nothing there. You look at the numbers. Like, Alavi is a standout player. Outside of that, like, even their running back room is starting to diminish. Like, Kamara was a great threat, dual threat over the last 3 to 4 years.
And
That's gone away as well.
We saw, Craig, to be fair, what Kellen Moore was able to do with limited resources at his disposal. You know, Tyler Shuck flashed and showed us some of what he's potentially capable of doing. Saints ultimately surprised us to the upside last season with how competitive they were, with how dynamic they could be on offense, despite not having much available to them. So it's hard to imagine them doing anything other than taking the most talented receiver available to them at this position. And it's one of those ones where I can see the argument for injury notwithstanding, taking a risk. It's a risk no matter who you pick in the draft. And again, you don't want to be looking in the rearview mirror at this player coming off the board when he was available to you and working miracles somewhere else.
The Saints are an intriguing one because of the fact that I actually think their defense is sneaky good and probably underrated, and I don't think a lot of people give them credit for it.
Shane does. Shane thinks they'll win the division next year, doesn't he?
Well, he does, but you know,
Shane went off on one at the live show that time. He was all about the Saints out of nowhere. It's like he had an epiphany. He was speaking in tongues.
But you're convinced by it.
But you look at the rest of their offense. They got Kelvin Banks Jr. last year to anchor that line. Travis Etienne came in for running back. They still have Juwan Johnson at tight ends. They do have weapons there. Wide receiver, they just need that secondary wide receiver, and then they're away. So it makes sense, but as we've seen from this draft already, nothing makes sense.
Nothing makes sense in draft land anyway. I mean, I find myself 24 hours out from the draft thinking about players and going, yeah, this guy's got explosive, violent hands, gets off blocks quickly, unbelievable bend from the 2 minutes of YouTube footage I watched. Suddenly become an absolute expert, as we all do, and it makes fools of us all at the end of the day.
There's always those buzzwords, isn't there?
Violent hands.
Quick hands.
Small hands.
Range.
Small hands, but he's here for a reason. That's what we're here today.
Great length. Love a player with great length.
Girth is one that's used quite a lot in these ones.
Love a bit of girth. In a player,
can't be a bit of girthy offensive lineman.
Any comments?
But yeah, we'll have a look at the comments. There's been a few. We've got some people watching. You know, greetings from Denver, Colorado, which is pretty impressive, and from San Francisco, where we were a few months
well, I hope
ago.
that's Kevin the Cop.
Luke Welch being
It is Luke.
Yeah.
Hello, Luke. How are you?
But
or Kevin the Cop. I hope Kevin is watching us in San Francisco. We met him down at Radio Row. A big fan of the show. Kevin from County Down. Currently walking the streets representing San Francisco's finest.
Barry Adams just asked Connor when he can pick up one of those jerseys for his 5-a-side.
Oh, excellent! Look, Barry, we have a merch strategy, so you'll hear from us very soon on that. If you even want to send us some details, we can get Kieran Donovan to rustle you one up, and maybe we can kit out your 5-a-side team. Reach out to us. We'll talk about that.
Mickey Walsh also did say that he hoped that the Cardinals took a long snapper with their third pick, but they evidently didn't love that.
Speaking of picks, some audience had the same kind of similar to remember watching it in Detroit there a couple of years ago.
Detroit took the roof off, but it's great sending the draft on tour like this. Where is it next year again?
Washington.
And
they did take Jordan Tyson. Okay.
So you're right. You're right.
I mean, that's the Rams pick sorted now, right? So they'll probably take Mekhi Lemon at 13, you would think.
I'm not convinced they'll take a wide receiver at 13. I think there's wide receivers in the second round that the Rams can go after and still be effective. The Rams are built to go to Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily mean, I think they're in a special situation where they didn't expect to be that high up. It's a best player available scenario.
So the Browns now have traded down. They get whatever O-lineman they want. You would think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And they've got an extra 2 selections now in the draft as a result. Good bit of business for Cleveland too. And we were talking about Cleveland before the show started this evening, saying, you know, if you looked at the draft a year ago, all of the talk in Cleveland was, what are they doing? Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel, what an absolute mess. And then as the season pans out, they have the defensive rookie of the year in Carson Schwestinger. They have Quinshon Judkins, great selection at running back. Harold Fannin in a year in which Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren came off the board, arguably the best rookie tight end in the league last year. They absolutely nailed their draft on the whole. and are a real team to watch here now. They have a lot of draft capital built up. Looks like they've made a smart move to trade down with that. They've made a smart. Yeah, I'm looking forward to clipping this one later in the season. Connor took a flyer on the Browns. He was in on the ground floor in Cleveland, but that is a pretty good move, and it's worked out quite nicely for them. They get what they would have wanted anyway, and they picked up two extra selections as a result.
Yeah, and offensive tackle makes the most sense here. It's just the fact of what they want to do. Now, right tackle, they've got Titus Howard, who they brought in from the Texans. And just looking at my notes here, a lot of the top tackles are right tackles and have never played left tackle. You have to really look at Monroe Freeling, who's number 17 on the Beast from Ben Bruber, who is the first left tackle who's going to be there. Spencer Fanu, Francis Varga, they're both right tackles. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do here. Do they take a flyer maybe on one of those and look to move either Titus Howard or them over to left tackle, which isn't the easiest thing to do. I've been told by an offensive lineman in Justin Pugh that it's very difficult to go from a right tackle to a left tackle. I won't give you the exact anecdote that he told me, but it isn't easy. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do here. They do need to get better there. They do need to get better at wide receiver. Again, Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, Isaiah Bond. It's not, exciting.
Yeah.
It's not. They still have the quarterback issue. They're not going to address that here. Cleveland could be the team that maybe takes Mackay Lemon if they really feel like he is a difference maker in the slot.
Deshaun Watson is going to be the quarterback next season. That seems the general consensus.
He hasn't played since week 7 of 2014.
He took a year off the Texans. He'd be fine.
But the best contribution he's made while he's been at the Browns is to get injured. The offense has improved each time he's gotten injured.
In fairness to Shedeur, he did play reasonably well towards the back end of the season.
He did, yeah. It's a pretty small sample of games we've seen him in. Like, how much better is what we've seen of Malik Willis than what we saw of Shedeur Sanders? Like, in an offense that wasn't doing an awful lot, Shedeur gave them a spark of life.
Yeah, he did. He went into Vegas. He gave him a spark of life to beat that game. Okay, the Raiders.
But Dylan Gabriel didn't look like he could throw the ball from one end of this table to the other.
The only thing is that Dylan Gabriel actually ranks higher than Shedeur Sanders in passing grade for last year on PFF.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
I saw. Sorry. No, sometimes you go and see a player in front of you, and eye test. Me and Kieran.
The last refuge of the damned.
We were at Tottenham. I don't know how we drew that to shoot the short straws on that one, but me and Kieran, on behalf of the show, went to the Vikings game against the Browns in Tottenham, and it was starting about how poor he was, and yet they nearly won the game because the name escapes me. They're Junkin.
Prince John Judkins,
yeah, he had a really strong game. Essentially, nearly won the game on his own for them. Went over 100 plus yards. The Vikings managed to sneak a victory at the end, but it wasn't because of the quarterback. His overall play was kind of scary to look at. You wonder.
Yeah, but Brown's pick is in, and this is another one of those ones that is quite telling because of who is still going to be left on the board. As we were saying, if they don't take an O-lineman, you still got your pick at O-lineman for the remainder. We haven't even talked about defensive interior players and what the Dexter Lawrence trade, the Bengals, trading out of that 10 overall pick to the Giants to get Dexter Lawrence. I mean, what that said was that we don't have any faith in the interior defensive linemen who are available in the draft. We certainly don't think there's one there at the talent level of Dexter Lawrence. I'm thinking about this selfishly in one sense from a Bears perspective, because that's an area where they may potentially look to take a player like a Peter Woods or somebody of that ilk. But not much stock being put in the interior defensive players thus far. And a lot of, as we say, O-lineman needy teams still in great position to take them in the first round.
Yeah, a lot of the defensive tackles are looking at around about that sort of 32 mark or the second round. Like they're not good this year, or not good, but they're not first round talent this year. So, and there we go. Spencer Fanu, tackle, goes to the Browns.
That's one of the most touted ones over the course of the last fortnight, kind of like time and time again. Like you look at various mock drafts across all the different aspects, whether it's Todd McShay, the ESPN team, Mel Kiper, etc., and that was the consistent one. Now it wasn't at 9, it was at 6, but it was like they're going to home in an offensive line. They love their plays in the trenches in Cleveland. The Cleveland fans will embrace that because again, it's another part of the puzzle in terms of protecting the quarterback, whoever's starting quarterback next season. And the Browns haven't got away from what they fundamentally need. They need players, big players up front, both offense and defense. But defense is probably a little bit more secure than offense, and they haven't got away from the fact that other players have fallen down the board. Number 10 is the Giants. We're going to go to a break after this one. Hopefully, Sky don't go for
take a break while the Giants are picking up.
Well, Sky did the last time, so hopefully that won't happen again.
But riddle me this then: where's Caleb Downs going? Is it Cowboys, or does he fall as far as Baltimore?
Caleb Downs is going now.
Yeah,
You think?
I 100% agree. You look at what John Harbaugh
The
did.
pick is in.
It's already done. John Harbaugh took Carl Hamilton a few years ago for the Ravens and turned him into the de facto captain of that entire defense. And you're looking at a player here in Caleb Downs, who a lot of people say is the best player in this draft, full stop.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's dropped down to 10 and could potentially be picked now as the commissioner walks out.
Yeah. I mean, I had them taking Caleb Downs in my mock draft. I think that might be the only player I've gotten
The
correct.
nation
so far.
holds- the nation holds
I'm
its
certainly
breath.
holding my breath.
And
Noah,
now
O-lineman.
O-lineman.
Nobody had that in their mock draft. For us.
I've just looked. They're not looking good, lads.
Yeah.
Come on, Giants fans, let's be having you. Plenty of talk up to this point. Stunned silence.
I thought we'd be hopping off the chair, Connor.
I
I'll
think,
let you go.
yeah. I think what's happening here is that they're looking at a player in Mario who has never played anything other than right tackle and are potentially going to project him at going to guard. And I don't quite get why you would pass up on Vega Arane and take Marigo. You would take the player who has played the guard position over the tackle. It's a very strange one. I mean, if you would have
Well,
told
I'm going
me...
to tell you, though, if this guy stops pass rushers as efficiently as he stopped the two of you talking, he's going to be an absolute sensation. You could have heard a pin drop at that one.
John Harbaugh's making the picks, isn't he? Because that's not a Joe
Yeah, yeah.
Shane type pick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you said it there. John Harbaugh is absolutely making the picks. Like Arvell Reese was absolutely what you would expect Harbaugh to do in hindsight.
Yeah.
Now I know, this has a Harbaugh draft written
Yeah,
all
you
over
said
it.
earlier, well, Harbaugh builds teams through the trenches, and like this is the forefront. Like we've been talking time and time again about the offensive line being, I wouldn't say correctly done back to what you'd like it to be to protect the quarterback in Jackson Dale, but it certainly improves compared to other years when you've watched so many bad years of Giants football. It looked like it was a reasonably compact offensive line, but there's still gaps, and they felt obviously that there wasn't enough there to work with, because there's been suggestions of all these other offensive tackles coming in for visits and stuff. Clearly, that's not the case. Clearly, that's.
Well, Brian Craig, it's been a pleasure talking to the two of you. Now that the Giants have taken the 3 first-round picks, you can head home on the night link. Now we 10 players gone off the board now. We've another 22 picks to go in the first round of the NFL draft. Live from the Arlington Hotel in Dublin, in association with QuinnBet and on the Believe Network here with the Irish NFL Show. Stay with us. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back. The 11th overall pick of the 2026 NFL draft.
breaths.
Welcome back to the Irish NFL show, live from the Arlington Hotel, where if you're just joining us, we've counted through the first 10 picks of the NFL 2026 draft from just outside Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh. And the Dallas Cowboys, the latest team off the board at 11, where they've jumped up one space. They traded with the Miami Dolphins for the right to select ultimately the safety Caleb Downs, who we long expected, Craig, to be the first safety off the board. A lot of safety-needy teams. Cowboys weren't necessarily the people expected to do this, and it's interesting to move up just one place. If, again, you would think the Dolphins wanted the safety, they wouldn't have traded out of this position, so the Cowboys may have jumped the gun a little bit, but they got the guy they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I did have safety as being something that the Dolphins did need, but it's not in their top 4 needs for the Cowboys. It was there. You're looking at a team who offensively were absolutely phenomenal and played like a house on fire. You know, Dak Prescott out to CD Lamb, like they lit it up all season. They really did well offensively. Just defensively, they were absolutely turgid for the entire season, and it's probably what cost them a place in the playoffs. In a division that actually suffered a little bit because the Eagles weren't as good as they were the previous year. Now you're looking at somebody who is going to make a big difference on that defense for them, and it was the correct pick. You know, the rumors were that they were going to come up for a wide receiver. The run on the 2 had already happened, and it looked by all means that they were maybe going to take Mekhi Lemon, but they did the right thing.
A shot from the Cowboys draft room there where Stephen Jones looked absolutely ecstatic, in particular among that contingent, delighted with himself. Great night's work by Stephen already. You can go home and get a little nap now.
Can't believe they looked at the Caleb Downs has fallen to 11, and obviously they've moved up, because even last week when we were just, and you've made a very good point, sorry, on our Monday show when I suggested the Cowboys might move into the top 10. You said they've only actually done it once in the last 15 to 16 years. It's not something that the Cowboys, for all the conversations of Jerry's an impatient man, he wants to make a splash, they don't tend to do that come draft time. They're probably can't believe, I know they've moved up one, with all due respect, one spot.
But you're not rolling the dice.
No.
Yeah.
So they've gone tackle to protect Malik Willis, Connor. It's funny when we're doing pieces and you're looking at teams and how many players of need they have. It looks, for me, Dolphins predominantly need defense. Fitzpatrick goes to the Jets in a very low-end trade. Bradley Chubb is released, signs for divisional rival in the Bills. You look at their back end and their secondary, not a lot there. Look, we know they're a team that looks like they're going to be having a refresh in terms of a year. But they obviously feel they've something in Malik, but they paid Malik Willis very well.
In the one mock draft that I saw that had them selecting Caden Proctor, the point was made that you've taken in John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley precisely because you want to do things the way the Packers would do them, where you would build from the ground up, and that they thought that Caden Proctor thus make the most sense from the point of view of the type of the culture and the approach that they would be likely to take, which was transplanting the Packers' approach to Miami, and that does make perfect sense within that framework, right?
Yeah, the weird thing is just the fact that Caden Proctor has gone quite a lot earlier than I think anyone expected. A lot of people were looking at him in the kind of 15 to 25 range.
Yeah, I saw him in the 20s in a lot of mock drafts.
Yes, and you're looking at like Caleb Lomu and Monroe Freeling, who were both mocked a lot higher than Caden Proctor, but there has been a lot of buzz around him.
6'6", 350 pounds. This guy is country fed.
He is very much country fed. And Kieran Boyle, our own Kieran Boyle, had him going to the Commanders at 7. So he obviously saw that he is going to go a lot earlier than the consensus.
If there's one thing Kieran Boyle loves,
it's a
country fed man from the SEC who's played, in the rough and tumble for Bama or Georgia, and these guys tend to perform when they get to the NFL.
He likes a good omelet, that Proctor. And therefore, Kieran Boyle will be extremely
Kieran
impressive.
Boyle only shout out Kieran. Only eats Western omelets. Loves the old Denver omelet.
Proctor's kind of guy to say, keep the coffee coming, my love. That's what he says.
Out of 3.
I could still see the waitress's face when Kieran Boyle said, "I'll have 6 cups of coffee, please."
I think for Dolphins fans, you touched on there, that it's probably the right pick, the most sensible pick, practical pick. But Dolphins fans want to splash. They want to splash. The Dolphin wants to splash.
Everybody wants to splash. You saw the memes in the week. my face when my team picks a sensible offensive lineman instead of the wide
Yeah,
receiver.
I know. You just saw it about 10 minutes ago.
Literally, yeah, it played out in front of me. Yeah, live diorama here when you guys took first. We're now seeing the run on offensive linemen probably start a little bit earlier than we had expected. So again, the teams who select from here, things get interesting very, very quickly. And we've got the Rams up next, widely expected to take Mackay Lemon, the wide receiver. If you believe a lot of the hype coming around the Rams, if we're one player away, we just need that one wide receiver. That's going to put us over the top. This is the last, act, more than likely, of Matthew Stafford's career. If he's going to get that one ring, and if they're going to get that one more ring in this particular generation of talent, this is the player that they seem to believe. Now, there's other speculation that maybe the Rams are just throwing a head fake here, and what they actually want to do is trade down, which they haven't done, and maybe take a quarterback.
Ty Simpson. Because Ben loves to see Ty Simpson go off the ball. We were chatting about it earlier. Not convinced he's worthy of a first-round pick, but it's been touted during the week that the Rams see this as kind of two things. One, they're very rarely picking at this situation, so they will take best player available. And two, there's also the scenario where they do actually want to start looking towards the future. They don't want to get into a situation where it's a Matthew Stafford. Look, we're suggesting, or I know the guys in the show are trying to talk into the existence that at some stage Joe Burrow's going to get traded to the Rams in the future. I don't think the Rams don't want to be in a position where they're giving away more picks. I know we joke about they build teams, but they don't necessarily always have the picks. Maybe Ty Simpson is the quarterback that they keep out of the other teams' hands in the division, i.e. the Cardinals, who seem to be pointing out to take it.
But did anyone have a mid-first round grade on Ty Simpson? That does seem, look, you say now it seems a bit of a reach, who knows, but
Judging by what we've seen in the last hour.
Yeah, it would shake things up if they did go. I'd love to see it from the point of view of the box office if they do go that way, and it shakes things up even more than they've been shaken up already.
He's the 42nd player on the Beast Top 100, so it's not within the realms of what we are looking at here in the terms of pick 13. It is a massive, massive reach if they do it. But
I'm going to
if
say
you want the player, you want the player.
Well, I'm going to say, let's take the Brad Holmes from a couple of years ago with Detroit. Like, Jamir Gibbs comes off the board. What are you doing taking a running back that high? Like, absolutely nailed it. Sam Laporta is similar. Bit of a reach for Sam Laporta. Like, Holmes was getting dinged after that draft, and he's a genius.
Yeah, there's a lot of thought that's going to go into this one from the Rams. It's funny when you have a team who has Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, and you think they need wide receiver help, but it is exactly kind of what you would do if you were all in, and you aren't going to have Matthew Stafford for much longer. And a lot of people are linking Ty Simpson because of the fit that he would have in a Sean McVay offense.
The Rams pick is now in. It's interesting that as the pick is in graphic came up here on the screen in front of us, it was Ruben Bain who they were showing on the couch as if to say, could the Rams go and do something completely unexpected here and make a defensive pick? And he's still on the board. If you're going best player available, maybe Ruben Bain is the man who's top of the Rams board. We'll see very soon whether that's the case or not, or whether they do go, as most of the mock drafts, which are already falling to pieces, including our own mock drafts around our ears right now, had predicted that Mackay Lemon would be the guy, but maybe that's not going to be the case.
Ultimately, where did they come out the wrong side of that NFC Championship game in Seattle? Was it more because the offense didn't play well, or was it more because the defense allowed Seattle to go up and down the field?
It's a really good point. This is the whole thing that people were saying going into the playoffs last year was what's going to kill the Rams is the secondary. What's going to kill the Rams is their defense. We know they can. We know they can go up and down the field themselves on most teams, as they did on Seattle and forced the best game out of Sam Darnold all season long. But to your point, we're unable to stop that happening in front of their very eyes.
Squeeze that lemon out, Connor. That's what they say. This could be.
Well, when the draft throws you lemons.
He's a unique character, Lemon, isn't it? We spoke about it on the podcast. We asked Kieran around his kind of demeanour and how he kind of went about his interview at the combine, and people were kind of put off by that. And Kieran rightly said he won't be put off by it if he's having a stellar season, whatever team he lands on. He go into a great spot here. Yeah. Like, as much as we're saying defense is not necessarily a problem, like Devontae Adams has come to the back end of his career, he probably do need a second.
Well, and here's I think this will be wild given how many tight ends they've already gotten in their tight end room. But Kenyon Sadiq is still on the board. Sean McVay loves him a tight end.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're looking at a tight end who
They've
is
got
one
four
of those.
tight ends, though. That's the thing. Sorry, you're right. I've seen it this week. He love him. And then I'm going, They got Ferguson, they've got Higby, they've got various other ones that are coming through. Or they think
Sadiq is looked at as one of those kind of wide receiver-esque tight ends, though. He's not the sort of tight end.
Like a Brock Bowers.
Yeah, he's not going to be your blocking tight end. He is going to be the stretch the field, but I am a little bit heavier than your average wide receiver. That's what he is.
It's like you're talking about me.
they said that
I wouldn't be a blocking tight end. I'd like to roam free, Craig.
Similar wording was said about Colson Loveland last year. He's not
Yeah.
necessarily a tight end. He'll give you the option down the field, and he certainly did over the course of the season for the Bears. Here we go. What's the gut saying? Connor?
Just the way this draft has gone, Mackay Lemon seems too obvious. Let's go Ruben Bain. I'll spice up my life a little bit.
I'm going to go Monroe Freeling.
Ty Simpson, they've taken
they
the
did.
quarterback.
Wow.
I called it.
Wow.
Ben, I called it.
The 12th.
Well, now the Rams are now doing something completely different than pretty much everybody thought that they would.
Yeah.
They are building.
Except me, Connor.
They're in both win now and win later mode. This is smart GM play. This is how you build an organization.
This Ben's out.
Ben has left the building off camera. He can't handle it anymore.
This is the kind of shock level that we had when the Falcons took.
Literally hear
the
Ben
Falcons-
sighing in the back.
This is very similar to when the Falcons took Michael Penix a few years
Yeah.
ago, and just the shock level when it happened. The biggest difference is that Michael Penix was seen as being a first-round level quarterback, and Ty Simpson hasn't been seen as that. And there's a lot of people who still think that maybe Carson Beck or Garrett Nussmeier were higher than Ty Simpson in the terms of, the production on the field and what they would project at. This is a shocker.
Well, watch the way that this is covered, though, because to your point, when the Falcons took Penix, it was like, you idiots. But it's all going to be, Les Snead is a genius because they're going to give him a year behind Matthew Stafford. They're not going to have to do anything reckless. They can keep the train rumbling the year after next. We shall see, Brian.
And open transparency, as a man who placed a few shillings at Quinbet about 6 weeks ago on Ty Simpson to be selected by the Rams at an extortionate price, I am flabbergasted. That's the holiday paid for.
I thought you were going to say the Moet is on you later on. The Moet and cigars are on Brian.
Well, I saw the availability to us. There was no Moet, all right. Like that, no cigars.
It's Moet, Brian.
They did Budweiser.
Classy drink.
Connor, you are right. Like if this turns out in 3 to 4 years to be the succession plan, well, we say 3 to 4 years, probably within a year, maybe 2 seasons of Matthew Stafford. And he comes in, he learns. Like this is the great thing.
Well, this could be the Rodgers to Love handover.
Because he's been picked at 13. If there was an expectation that he had to come in at some stage next season or the year after to play, obviously then immediately you could have the pressure on. The fact that he's going to go to LA, the pressure on players to play in LA is very different dynamic to other cities. Even Rich Eisen spoke about it on his podcast during the week. He can go to LA and live comfortably for the next year and a half and wait for his opportunity. No one's going to be really hammering the Rams. I'm knocking on the door to ask them when he's going to play.
Exactly the Jordan Love model. And remember when Jordan Love finally did come in and playing for the Packers, and people thought, this guy is great. But like he was the first round pick. He's supposed to be this good. Yet they absolutely nailed the pick, but they also gave him time to season and took the pressure off.
But this is exactly what teams should do with quarterbacks in the first round.
And here we are shocked because he
But
never knew what they should
they're
do.
in a luxury. They can do it. They can afford to do it.
Yes, they can afford to do it. And this is why you see so many quarterbacks, Sam Darnold, for example, who will go to somewhere like the Jets, will fail because he's not given the time. He's thrown in at the deep end. He's not given the time to process defenses, which do move quicker in the NFL compared to college. Ty Simpson has landed on his feet massively here. He could be the most happy player across the entire evening by the end of this.
Well, that's a brilliant point because like what all of those players who turned their careers around have in common is they eventually got to play at absolutely top level offensive coordinator, learn the game without having to process it in real time in front of a massive audience with all the pressure on his shoulders, like Sam Darnold did, like Daniel Jones, both got to do under Kevin O'Connell at the Vikings, like Darnold got to do at the 49ers for a year, a year he cites as being a huge factor in his development. Or like Mac Jones did for the 49ers last year, had time to sit before he eventually got thrown into play for Brock Purdy, and it's transformed all of their careers.
Yeah, absolutely. And this could be and like you said, a master stroke. You know, a few years' time where he sat behind probably, arguably, the best quarterback in the NFL right now, and one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for the last 10, 15
Not
years.
forgetting that this time last year we weren't sure that Matthew Stafford was going to be able to start the season for the
Yeah.
Rams because of his back trouble. Like he's not getting any younger. He's more likely, not less likely, to get injured. You know, God forbid. You know, obviously wish that on anyone, but Ty Simpson could be playing as immediately as next season because they may need him to.
Garoppolo was the backup last year.
Garoppolo's retired now.
He's retiring now. Yeah, so I was just thinking, because is he necessarily going to be the backup immediately, or is he going to be like towards stringer?
Well, if they picked him at 13, the expectation is that he is going to be good enough to play the backup role, right?
So this goes back to what Dan Aronofsky said a few weeks ago, that he's actually a better quarterback than him, and those obviously all will be revealed in due course. But like he was convinced by him.
Ravens selection is in.
Offensive
Here we go.
line. I'm going to suggest offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, while we're waiting for this, Greg put in a comment earlier saying that he thinks that the Ravens will go O-line, hopefully Fano or Vega. Looking forward to the no doubt positive reaction they'll get from the Steelers fan base, which obviously happened. And there we go, Vega or Arne, which just is the most Ravens pick it possibly could be.
That one's been touted for quite some time.
Yeah.
That's a very John Harbaugh type of pick, isn't it, in Baltimore? Oh, no, he's not in Baltimore. He's making offensive line selections for the Giants.
This is the John Harbaugh draft right now.
And it was the second biggest need that the Ravens had. They needed to get better on that offensive line. Their guard position, they brought in John Simpson from the Jets. And, you know, they're now bringing in the de facto best guard in this class. There's a lot of tackles who project as potentially moving inside to guard. But this is somebody who has played the guard position for his entire collegiate career. And you can just see the highlights there. He's an absolute mauler, just driving players backwards. I think that was 3 straight pancake blocks we've just seen.
Just like absolute raw power, as you say. He's got the girth, but he's got the explosion
He's got the girth
to make it work for him.
He's got the girth and the hurt. The Bucks are gonna. I'm gonna throw it out here now.
Now he's got the worth. Now that he's a first-round selection in
He'll be a wealthy
the
man now.
NFL.
Come the offseason. The Bucks are on the clock. I think this is where the tight end goes. I think this fits the Baker Mayfield and the offense. And Mike Evans is gone. Godwin was struggling last year with injury.
You don't want all the pressure on Ibuka.
McMillan, the wide receiver, who was the third or fourth round pick the previous year, didn't really have the same kind of level of production last year compared to the first year.
Who you got there, tight end? Cade Otton?
Cade Otton is tight end 1 at the Bucks. I mean, it's not a massive pressing need. You know, they do have Reuben Bain Jr., who is still on the board at the moment, and edge is a big thing for them. They have Diaby, who's
Reuben Bain's fallen to the Bears, baby. Just manifesting that, just putting that out there. We're all on work.
It was all in vain. There was no Bain for Connor. That's like Ben later. Ben said, I'll come along tonight.
You really adopted the dog. I was born in it.
Ben's here managing production, and then he's going to say, oh, there's my team now, 32, selecting. Oh, they've traded them.
He already knows, though. He knows.
I'm accepting my fate.
Yeah.
Except his face.
He's okay. He's
still got that Super Bowl glow.
Yeah. It hasn't gone away yet. I can't remember what that was like.
Buccaneers are sitting there. They don't need any offensive line help. The Lions are still sitting there.
Levante David retired, obviously.
I
mean, Bain, you would think, is the sensible selection
for
them. But
absolutely.
I could see Kenyon Sadiq coming off the board either. I think that's a really good option for them if they choose to go that way. You're not gonna complain about either of those if you're a Bucs fan.
No, not at all. And you look down the line, there's not many teams that need tight end help coming up either. So they could potentially, you could see him drop quite far, which is surprising because there was a bit of buzz after the combine that said that Kenyon Sadiq would go top 15, and they would. I actually said a few weeks ago on one of our preview shows, I would be shocked if he falls outside the top 20, and it's a very, very likely thing.
That's more because of the pressing needs of other positions by the teams coming up. The Lions need offensive tackle. The Vikings need a safety. The Vikings been touted to a safety for quite some time, so it's not necessarily a reflection of him. It's just the dynamics of this draft.
Absolutely.
But I mentioned D tackles earlier, and you're now saying if you need a D tackle and you're down the end of the first round, like this is where I could start to see teams weighing up. Yeah, we can trade out of the first round.
Potentially, or you're going to get teams who go, you know what, I'm going to take that defensive tackle, even though the consensus might be that it's a reach because it's such a need for me. And what is 10, 15 picks?
Yes. And you still got Fanu on the board for those teams that are needful of an offensive lineman. As we say, if the Bucks don't take Ruben Bain, he'd still be there, which is not something that many of us would have expected to be the case at this stage of the draft. And Kenyon Sadiq as an exciting little floater, again, depending on what the Bucks decide to not do here.
Is this an indictment of what the NFL is now? Because of obviously there are some issues with Bain and potentially something that happened off field. Is this something where players are going or teams, are going and saying, you know what, we are going to do our due diligence a lot more because of what has happened in recent years with players with character concerns that has then come to the forefront? I mean, you're looking at Daniel Jeremiah's best available there. Bain is the 7th best available player, and we're sitting here at pick 15, and he's still there.
And you got Thieneman on the board. You got Jamon McCoy still on the board, who was in many people's mock draft the best cornerback available. A lot of people fancied him over Mansour Delane. He did fall in the weeks leading up to the draft. He got some injury concerns there. Obviously, that's the thing that's weighing on his draft prospect, not talent. There's a lot of really good players still available on the board here, and a lot of teams licking their chops who did not expect to be in the position to have them.
Lemon to the Jets potentially. Like they were touted to potentially try and make a move to get back up the board. A lot of selections available. Maybe if Lemon falls to them at 16, that'd be unique to see his character in the New York.
Yeah.
In the New York media, how do you manage that?
Well, there's no doubt about this. Ty Simpson to the Rams is the story of this first round, whatever happens from here on in, and quite possibly is going to be the story of the draft, because it tells us something very different, as I was just saying, about where the Jets are and where they see themselves as being than we had thought would be the case going into this. It's a real flex.
Yeah, and there were a lot of people who were saying that all you need to do is look at the Cardinals, look at the Jets at the back end of the first round. Will they come up for Ty Simpson? And that's completely wiped that off. There are a lot of teams towards the end of this first round who wanted to trade out. They're not going to be looking at those two teams now. It's going to be really interesting to see who is now willing to take that jump up, even if it is only a few spots.
There's also the conversation. I know the Rams aren't the Cardinals aren't challenging now. We may do in the future that inevitably it wasn't the Rams going to take Simpson. It would have been the Cardinals, and maybe the Rams are looking and going, we didn't need to have him as opposed to playing against them for years to come.
That we're talking about things that happened that turned out to be quite wild and not what we expected them to be. I'll hold that thought for a second, because the Bucks have taken Ruben Bain Jr. off the board. It was probably either going to be Bain or Sadiq. Now Sadiq's still available, of course, but Bain is a very sensible selection for a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that do need that defensive edge.
Yeah, they struggle a little bit in the defensive side of things. They're in a division, the NFC South, that's not the strongest, and they could quite easily take over. We saw what happened to them on the back end of last year. They were really good offensively, and defensively they just fell apart a little bit towards the end of the year. So it makes sense to get somebody who should have gone potentially 10 picks higher than this and was touted as that many weeks ago, to the point where we're now seeing him drop. And like I said, is that a character thing? And are they actually getting probably one of the best players available in the draft who has dropped because of personal circumstances, as opposed to what he delivers on the field?
Well, the Moneyball point was always that if you have a player that his issues are off field, that's easier to work on than a player who is lacking in talent, Brian. And if you put the right environment around them, I'm not necessarily sure Tampa is the place to go to clean up your act if you have off-field issues. But I wish them well, and I wish him well with that.
I guess they've a solidified front office. They haven't made any drastic change for quite some time. They don't tend to change their head coaching situation too often, despite what.
Well, this is a city that welcomed Antonio Brown through the door, and they got one great year out of him and won a Super Bowl.
Well, that was more due to the fact that I imagine that Tom Brady rally the troops and rally Gronk and rally Brown to come with me to the party.
When we had Tom Brady the season where he went off the rails as well.
Yeah, he kind of fizzled out towards. Well, he came back the following year.
I don't think he fizzled out. It was more like an explosive fireworks display on the field. There was no fizzling there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I felt they would have offense. I felt they needed more, and that particular fact that the tight end was not necessarily just a tight end. It was a wide receiver threat as well. I think they're lacking offensively right now.
Do you remember, Craig, though, when we talked to Bruce Arians on the show? Like, Bruce was, as you would expect, very much hyping up the Bucks, but like there was no sense of it being a homer for him. Like, he thinks this is the best team in this division, and he's very high on Baker Mayfield, and thought that they did need to do a little bit of work on the defense. We were talking to him about when he managed to convince. And Todd Bowles managed to convince Levante David to stay when Levante David wanted to go out the door, when those two came in as the coaching ticket, and what a difference that made. Arians was very much of a mind that they needed to put a better defense on the field. The Baker and the offense had it exactly where they needed to be.
And don't forget, Todd Bowles is a defensive coach at heart, so Ruben Bain makes perfect sense to somebody who is wanting to improve it. He knows how to get the best out of players. They kind of rumbled around the edge rusher side of things for a few years. They had obviously Jason Pierre-Paul a couple of years ago, who ended up having some really good years, despite the fact that he was cast aside by the Giants after the accident that he had. So there is a high percentage chance that Ruben Bain Jr. really does sort of light it up for this Bucks team, and really does improve that defense and carries them forward, because they are the de facto favourites in that division year after year, because the other three teams are just middling sometimes.
One more. Kieran Boyle made a point a few weeks ago that sometimes it tends to be that the teams who are based in Florida will do their utmost to try to get players out of the college programs in Florida, because they're used to that environment. He's coming out in Miami, and he's gone to Tampa. Like they're not changing dynamics too much to a certain extent. Jets pick us in.
Yeah, Jets pick us in, and Brian, I think you had it on the money here. I'd be surprised if they took anyone other than Makai Lemon, unless maybe they took Kenyon Sadiq. It looks like you would think an offensive pick. If the Jets get out of this first round with the two picks they had, and they had probably the best pure edge rusher available in David Bailey. I mean, not that we know, we're projecting as to what will happen next season.
Yeah.
And one of the best wide receivers off the board. They'll be more than happy with their night's work.
Yeah, I mean, they've got plenty of options here, because they are sitting in that sweet spot where Makai Lemon is a good pick, because everyone was touting him to go around this area or before, but they could also look at the next level. They could look at the Amar Cooper Jr., they could look at Casey Concepcion, and they could also look at Denzel Boston. Oh, yeah, I nailed it, I know.
You did.
But they could also look at Denzel Boston, who is a big-bodied wide receiver. And they go tight end. Wow.
It's interesting in a way that
an offense with Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Kenyon Sadiq, if he plays as projected, Geno Smith as quarterback, that's not unexciting.
Who is their tight end at the moment? Is it Mason Graham, who they selected a couple of years ago? I think it was last year. Sorry. So they are making an upgrade to that room, and there's no reason that you can't play two tight end sets and have both on the field at the same time if your wide receiver room isn't up to scratch. I mean, you look outside of Garrett Wilson, they have Adonai Mitchell and they have Isaiah Williams, and then after that it is very slim picking. So this could make sense if they think
12 and 13 personnel in these two tight end sets, are very much back in vogue. It's what Ben Johnson does. It's what Sean McVay does. It's what the best offenses in the league find a way of making work for them. It allows you to do, if you've got the right caliber of athlete, which Sadiq very much projects as, a lot of really exciting stuff.
Just bear in mind, they've got extortion on the picks. The Jets. I think they got is it 2 second rounders?
Yes.
And the likelihood is, you can imagine, bearing in mind what we're talking about with Bell potentially in second round, there's a number of wide receivers that are touted to go to second. They probably feel they can get a wide receiver in the next round.
I mean, this is thought of as, again, inverted commas, a weaker draft class overall. It's certainly next year's selection, where it looks a lot more quarterback rich and potentially wide receiver rich than this year's selection. But notwithstanding that, as you say, Brian, given the sheer volume of the picks that the Jets have and the fact that they got 2 first-round picks, this could be absolutely transformative, and it needs to be from Aaron Glenn's perspective. Great.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No.
That's great.
Yes.
The thing is that you say, from Aaron Glenn's perspective, they got David Bailey, and that's the advantage of having 2 first-round picks. Is it does open up what you are able to do a little bit more. And with that David Bailey pick, they've probably taken exactly what they need in the terms of their defense. Offensively, we've said it's wide receiver. They've moved across to Kenyon Sadiq. And as Brian's rightly said, a lot of people are talking up at how deep this wide receiver class is, and what you can get in the second round is equivalent to what a lot of these wide receivers are outside of that top 3. Makai Lemon is projected as being an inside-outside, but mostly someone who will play in the slot. Maybe that's not what they need right now, and they think the value is better if they wait till day two.
I don't think the general manager, Darren Mooney, is under the same amount of pressure as the head coach.
No.
I think he's done some of these deals very efficiently in terms of what he's got back in return. Like even when the Cowboys were doing the deal for Quincy Williams, they said, "Oh, you can have our first issue." No, we don't want your first issue. We'll take next year's one because they knew it was apparently driven by a quarterback draft next year. So they're making sure they're in a position next year. So I think it's more about where Aaron Glenn.
I think that's a really good point. I
Yeah.
think he's played his hand very smartly to put them in a position to get the quarterback they need. And more importantly, as you know, we constantly talk about, you want the quarterback that you get through the draft to fall into a better situation than, you know, the worst overall team in the NFL, which the Jets have been close to for the last couple of years. They would be much better off. You can turn over nearly a fifth of your roster here.
Yeah.
If you make the right selections in this draft and have a bunch of blue chip starters around that quarterback of the future in 2027, and have the capital to move up and get that quarterback in the first round if you need to next year.
It also strikes me that for him to do those deals, I imagine he has reassurance he's going to be there within reason, unless they have an absolutely shambolic 2026 season, they only win 1 or 2 games. He'll be there next year to be the one making that selection.
Yeah.
Whether the head coach will be there is a different.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, they say as a general manager, you get at least 2 head coaches right before they're going to fire the bullet at a sensible, functional franchise. So, yeah, let's put the asterisk on that one because it's the Jets we're talking about. But if you look at the way they handled last year, it was fairly clear that, you know, no matter what happened there, Glenn was going to be okay. Like, they were happy for them to ship out Aaron Rodgers. They were happy for them to start dismantling the roster, get rid of Quinn Williams, get rid of Sauce Gardner, and build it from the studs up. And they'll give Aaron Glenn enough rope to either hang himself or to prove himself the man of the future. And as you say, Moogie gets another shot. The big question will be then, I suppose, if this year is an absolute disaster, do they stick by Aaron Glenn, or do they want new head coach to start with, a new quarterback, and to have a clear run at it?
Based on what they did in free agency.
Sorry, you've basically fired Aaron Glenn here.
Yeah,
the poor man's livelihood. It could be a great season next year.
Well, I was going to roll back slightly and say, and again, look, we know it's March, it's April, and we've appeared before. Like, it looks
winners
of
the off season. Yeah,
it looks on paper like they've had a reasonably good free agency. Like, they've actually made some really smart moves. They brought in players defensively with great experience, something similar to what the Commanders did a few years ago when they went on the run. And it looks like Gino can. I'm going to dare myself to say Gino, in a functioning offensive line, I still think could do enough for him to win games.
Yeah, he had nothing to work with last year.
No.
In fairness to Gino, he fell off a cliff because the Raiders couldn't protect him in the least. And speaking of protection, the Lions pick is in, and Craig, you know, they will have seen a couple of O-linemen that they might have liked to have come off the board. You still got Monroe Freeling, your boy is there. Spencer Fanu is still there. Caden Proctor and Francis Marinoa gone. Of course, Caleb Lowe potentially if they wanted to go that way, unless they take a flyer and go for Makai Lemon.
Yeah, I mean, offensive tackle just makes the most sense. It's what's been linked to the Lions for so long. Obviously, they've got Penei Sewell at left tackle. There's a lot of rumours that he will move to right tackle, where they now have a vacancy. So taking someone like Monroe Freeling or Caleb Lumu would make perfect sense because they're both pure left tackles and they played left tackle in college. Penei Sewell was a phenomenal player. He could probably switch like that and he'd have no issue whatsoever.
It's impacting its 2 teams back to back from your division. Colin, the Vikings are coming up after them, so I think the Vikings necessarily will be concerned about what the Lions do if the Lions go according to this general consensus.
Everybody expects the Vikings to take Dylan Peeneman, the safety, as the heir apparent to Harrison Smith as he sees out his career.
Absolutely, the consistency of every mock draft for him going to the Vikings it's off the charts.
Consistency of every mock draft has been the curse of tonight because they've been all proven wrong. Here comes the Lions pick from the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
With the 17th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Blake Miller, tackle, Clemson.
No, they didn't tackle, but they didn't necessarily go the tackle we thought they would. Blake Miller, the Clemson tackle.
Yeah, so Blake Miller's the next spot down from Caleb Lomu. He's the 7th graded offensive lineman outside of centre. He's a right tackle, so they are probably going to keep
Sewell on the left.
keep Sewell on left, and they're going to put Blake Miller on the right. I mean, he is a big boy, strength.
I feel like if you're going to be an offensive lineman, you really want to be from Strongsville, Ohio.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you just look at that 6'6", 317 is a monster of a player, and they're talking about his cover up speed.
Omelets.
That is a hell of a lot of
omelets.
omelets. The only thing is that people will say that his technique is inconsistent, which is why that they put him below Freeling and Loomer. And I'm actually quite surprised that Freeling's falling as far as he is, because I saw people linking him to the Browns with their pick. What were they? They were due to pick at 6, weren't they? But
6 to 9.
Yeah, they were at 6 to 9. But we knew it was going to be tackle. Just Blake Miller.
Let me just skip a little bit forward. I know I shouldn't do this, right? But Vikings pick is in. I'd be shocked if it's not going to be Dylan Tiedemann.
I know.
Flicking through the next couple of teams, you know where I'm
going.
going here. Panthers. The Cowboys are going to take a wide receiver. They're going to take Mackay Lemon, and you're going to kill them for it, Craig. I'm telling you. I'm calling it now.
Yeah, I'm just going to go right. So,
Greg said this when we were having dinner earlier. He said, if the Cowboys take a wide receiver off the board, I'm going to go to
in the
town.
draft season, everybody's suggesting he should have taken 2 defensive players to take wide receiver Lemon, and then he's going to break this NFC East for years to come, and Pickens will get traded thereafter. But you're convinced by this one, aren't you? Dylan
The Vikings pick.
It'll be Dylan Tiedemann or.
No.
Wow.
Banks.
Caleb
That's why
Banks.
we'd forgotten
That
about.
is
We had forgotten about
really,
Caleb Banks.
really early. I actually didn't even have notes on Caleb
When I
Banks.
talked about how relatively mad the interior, the defensive tackle class was here, that's a lot earlier than we would have expected Caleb Banks to go. And that's not the position we necessarily expected the Vikings to have as their position in need. I mean, I'm looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th in terms of the team needs priority per PFTN.
I have a bit of a spoiler for us. The Eagles are on the clock.
They traded up, did they?
They've traded up.
With the Panthers.
You know what's coming. They're squeezing the lemon out in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
According to that, they haven't traded up with the Panthers. It looks like they've traded up with the Cowboys.
That's
Because at the moment, unless the list at the bottom there is wrong, from that,
I think we might be a second behind for that. It's a spoiler alert. Sorry for spoiling. I'm trying to prepare you for what's ahead the next 5 years.
Made a pact before this not to spoil it.
I wouldn't spoil a pick. I didn't say I wouldn't spoil it.
Oh, Jesus. Now, there we have.
Caleb Banks, anyway, just quickly on him. A lot of people didn't think that he would go this high because of the fact that he's got that foot injury. He's had surgery. There is a potential that he might have to have more surgery on that foot. And when you look at players of his size at that position, that foot injury can reoccur. I had him lower than the 3 that I have written down here. So that's lower than Caden McDonald, Peter Woods, and Christian Miller. So that's a big jump for Caleb Banks.
Sorry, Connor. It was actually after the Panthers. The Eagles have traded with the Cowboys.
So there's no way the Cowboys are taking Mackay Lemon, but it might be that the Eagles, as you say, have moved up so they can.
But it's unusual again that they're actually the 2 teams that really dislike each other so much within the same division are willing to compromise when it comes to packaging in the draft, because they did it with Micah Parsons that year, where the Eagles moved up and took Smith, the wide receiver. And people are still today questioning why they would even give the team a rival in the division any opportunity or advantage. But sometimes the offering in terms of selection must be quite rich for them to move back.
The Cowboys have a lot of picks as well this draft. I mean, 2 first-rounders. They don't pick in the second round, so maybe that's why they've done it, is that they want that second-round selection to be able to improve that defense, because there is a long wait between 20, which is what this would have been, up to 92, which they got from San Francisco.
So let's give the Panthers a bit of airtime here, because you don't want to overlook them, because they are actually on the clock now, selecting at 19.
NFC South champions.
NFC South champions, as you quite rightly point out, Brian, and gave the Rams a real run for their money, and absolutely traded blow for blow with the Rams in the playoffs. Offensive line, offensive tackle, probably the place that they're going to go. You still got Spencer Fanu on the board. You still got Maxi Hinachor on the board. Those seem to be the 2 most likely picks if you're going O-line. But we've had plenty of surprises so far. Why wouldn't the Panthers do something crazy? And maybe, well, Dylan Thieneman is not necessarily a crazy pick for them either.
And that's
They may not have expected him to still be on the board here.
No, and that's kind of where my head was going when I saw that they had made the pick, is the fact that their safety room is not great. I mean, they had Trevor Morig and Nick Scott, who are not great. They ranked in the sort of back end of the 80s in the terms of their defensive grade amongst safeties, which is not what you want going into a season. Offensive tackle, not amazing. Right tackle, they're okay. Left tackle, Ikem Ekwonu, I think is injured at the moment, so they're not sure on the status of him. This could be a sneaky Lemon pick as well. It could.
I would love to see the Eagles trade up with a view to trying to get Lemon, and for the Panthers to go and take Lemon off the board.
Seems quite obvious. Maybe we say safety. Are they going to say, okay, well, if the Vikings don't want him, and we're happy to take him at 19?
Yeah, I could.
I just said that, but yeah.
Sorry, I was distracted by something else. I was trying to find a spoiler for you, but I'm not joking. I'm joking.
Yeah, I mean, it could be Thieneman, Emmanuel McNeil Warren as well as their safety. I don't think there's a massive amount that separates the two of them. I think it's, depends on your flavour. Dylan Thieneman is more versatile, so he can play in the box, he can play out deep, he can play closer to the line of scrimmage if need be. McNeil Warren is more of a rangy, tall, almost more built like a cornerback than a safety. So if that's the way they go, then it's kind of a what's your flavour kind of idea. But yeah, offensive tackle, safety, yeah. Maybe a sneaky one.
I'm looking ahead. The Panthers pick is in. I'm looking ahead into the 20s and thinking there's teams still in the offensive lineman market who'll probably be quite happy with the way the board has fallen. Still D tackles there if you want to go there.
Not too far away from the Bears selecting.
No, it's not. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Would have been kind of spicy if they'd gone for a Thieneman. I would have liked that, but he's now an interesting floater again within the wider draft. But this now looks like nailed on, Brian, as you were saying, that the Eagles are going to take Mackay Lemon.
He kind of dropped slightly, hasn't he? You say he dropped. He was touted at 13. Was kind of the max we've seen him on mock drafts, with the exception maybe of one of the guys in their group who had him going at 10 to the Giants, which I never thought that was realistic. No word he was going to the Giants.
But when you talk wide receivers, like Casey Concepcion is still on the board, as is your boy Boston that you've talked up a lot, Craig. I mean, there's teams here that I don't think it would be crazy. The Bears, for one, who might actually go wide receiver. Wide receiver room is not up the top. It looks great. It's not that widely stocked, and they may see this as an opportunity. And the Bills potentially, although you'd think with the DJ Moore move, they're happy enough there. Niners are another interesting team.
Is Casey a reach? A lot of people are suggesting he's more of a second round wide receiver. No?
A lot of people think that Casey was the best wide receiver outside of the de facto top three of Tate, Lemon, and Tyson. So I don't know. I think, again, it is very much a flavour thing as kind of what you want, with Mackay Lemon obviously being that predominant slot person. I'm not sure who the Philadelphia Eagles have in the slot position, but
Eagles pick is in.
This will inevitably, if it is wide receiver, Connor, we kind of know it already. This spells the end for AJ Brown.
Oh, yeah.
If it is.
Yeah, he's gone after June. Yeah, you called it, Brian.
So you're looking at a player who's going to have a bit of a chip on his shoulder going to the Eagles. This is just it's just how he rolls. He does it every year. There is a player that falls that everyone has the consensus of going a lot higher, and there's Howie rubbing his hands together going, I'll take him.
Yeah.
Take this any chance the Patriots go wild now and trade the farm to get AJ Brown just to move the story on from Mike Vrabel. Let the Eagles take the cap hit, but give them whatever they want.
And the Cowboys only moved back 3 spots, Connor. So I imagine it wasn't a huge. If they were comfortable with the wide receiver, fine, that's the type. They'll imagine you would expect Cowboys to go defense then.
Yeah.
The defense for the Cowboys, they needed cornerback, they need linebacker. This could be the kind of thing where they're moving back, so it doesn't seem like as much of a reach to get somebody like a CJ Allen or a Jacob Rodriguez, who are both being touted as second-round talent, but have been mocked in the first round.
And if they went 20, there'd probably still be a conversation of, are they really worried of going that kind of ballpark, where if they're dropping them down to 23.
Yeah.
It's amazing how, like, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
Beyond, like, 23 to 20 at this stage, once you get beyond 20, is it a reach? You know? Unless it's a player that everyone's convicted by and no thought process forbidden the fourth round. Ty Simpson turned it into the Rams. Like, the only conversation over the past few days, with the exception of the odd person touting him to the round, was people that said, he'll come back into the first round, pick up touchdowns.
Yeah.
Steelers are up next, Craig, and I'm not sure that they'll be thrilled with the way the board has unfolded, because you look at their areas of need and, quarterback. They're not taking a quarterback here. Guard, again, the cupboard is kind of bare there. Linebacker, wide receiver. This is not fallen particularly brilliantly for Pittsburgh in their home draft.
No, I mean, this could go anyway. I genuinely don't really know what you could do. I mean, Chase DeSantis is a guard who had a first/second round projection. They could look at him again. It could be a bit of a reach. Peter Woods, defensive tackle potentially. Yeah. Linebacker again. This could be somewhere where they decide, Jacob Rodriguez is our guy and we're going to take him. But then again, they don't tend. The Steelers traditionally don't like drafting defensive players from smaller schools.
Yeah.
And that is one thing to bear in mind. And again,
is Ioane an option here?
Ioane's gone. He went to the Ravens.
So no, he's not an option.
So he is not an option, no.
Well, he is staying in that division, though, Connor, so you were fair off the mark. He is in the AFC North. Just not.
They do have DK Metcalf. They have Pittman, who obviously they decided to trade for. Outside of that, it is not great. So could this be Concepcion Station, potentially?
Yeah, Pittsburgh reception for Concepcion, that could work.
At the moment, I do think it's a guessing game of what the Steelers can do, because they do have holes, but they have holes in positions that they can address in later rounds, and they do have a couple of third rounders. They have their second rounders, so they can do that there. It almost feels like, in a way, weirdly, like a Rams situation where all the players that are available are not anything that's going to really benefit your team, and you could just look at going, you know what, we're going to take this player, we believe in him, and if it works out, it works out.
20 picks in. I have a short break after this one, maybe, kind of.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That means twice we'll have missed the Cowboys picks on our live stream, our live coverage.
Well, that's because they traded, though. That's their fault.
Yeah. And they traded down. So they're rolling the dice with us to see.
Steelers' home pick is in. You'd have ideally wanted, when you're picking in your home market, to be able to make a splash and do something really cool.
Similar to when Green Bay last year picked a wide receiver in the first round for the first year.
Take an offensive player for the first time since they took Jordan Love.
Absolutely crazy. Kieran O'Donovan went jumping off the chair.
Place is probably going to go crazy here anyway. We know they're a vociferous home support, and they'll give plenty of love to whoever comes off the board.
And Tom McCormick, well known for his love and passion for Steelers.
Steelers International Fan of the Year. He is, yeah. Hello to you, Tom. Hope you're enjoying it. I saw some of your posts on Instagram. Having a great time in Pittsburgh by the looks of it.
So just as an update while we're waiting for this to come in, earlier when the Cowboys traded up with the Dolphins, they got both of they gave up their 2 fifth-round picks to the Dolphins to move up that one spot, and the Eagles gave up pick 114 and 137. So that's 2 fourth-rounders to move up with the Cowboys. So thank you to our producer for those bits of information.
Essentially giving back the now the thing is about when the hometown, the host city is selecting, kind of tends to go on for a little bit longer than normal. They tend to get a bit of a
pomp.
Yeah, a bit of a hoopla.
Razzmatazz.
Go Razzmatazz. Well, this is probably more exciting than actually watching the Steelers, isn't it? With the exception maybe
we got to see them in the flesh, and we saw them at their peak last year.
It was a great game. Crow Park was. It was
and a great event here we had on the eve of it in the Arlington Hotel as we sit here this evening, reflecting back on it, looking at the very stage where we were present. Well, we weren't present, Brian, but Kieran and Shane where we were otherwise engaged, and then came
We
to
were
support our colleagues later.
offsetting events on the same evening, but both very successful
Tough,
events
tough,
in their own
tough,
right.
tough.
Great weekend. Please God,
We were
not too
very
distant
much-
future, we'll see another game here in Dublin.
Yeah,
But we do have-
hope as soon as 2027 to have another game in Dublin. Fingers crossed.
We were fortunate again this year. 3 London games, a Munich game, a Madrid game, a Paris game.
Australia.
Is there anything to be said for an Australian trip, Brian?
My wife said absolutely no.
Was she okay with me going?
She didn't really ask her factor in your situation.
She's Jerome Bettis back
She
again.
just said I won't be going.
Jerome Bettis gets a second spin out here now.
Carl, let's not forget we have as well Bernard Hayes travel to consider. We also have a trip to the States, part of the pilot trip. So that's something in the offing as well for anyone who hasn't seen it or wants to register their interest. Check out irishnfl.show, irishnflshow.com/tours. Enjoying the way Ben is actively hiring it up as the picks are coming in. It's really helping the situation.
You could draft the kid on the left there. He's a big boy. Yeah.
What's your go here, Connor? What's your next? What are you suggesting?
Jamal McCoy.
Didn't play at all last year, cornerback. Risky one. Too risky for the Steelers.
Think.
They like to play safe.
That's a very Steelers pick.
Yeah.
But probably the right move given where they are.
And their fans were going to celebrate, as you said, no matter what selection came in. So
Yeah, right tackle. I'm not sure how high offensive tackle was on their board, but again, this could be another one of those ones where they're looking at moving them into the guard position, or it's just a pick for the future. You know, sometimes you can do that. You can sit someone behind the tackle. I'm not sure who they have at their tackle positions at the moment, but this could be something that they then look at and have him wait a few years, maybe come in as a swing tackle. You know, there's all sorts of things that you can now do when you're picking like this.
And I'm sure might have been an option for the Chargers, who are now on the clock. They look like they need to fill their line. We need to fill our glasses with a bit of water and take a bit of a break. So we're going to take 5 while the Chargers are on the clock and come back with that pick on the Irish NFL show.
You know great odds, you're in control, you always bet responsibly, and you're not afraid to choose alternatives. That's why you bet with QuinnBet. Build your own unique football bets with Create a Bet. Winning team, first goal scorer, number of goals, the possibilities are endless. And with a 4-star Trustpilot customer service rating, why not give QuinnBet a shot? QuinnBet, we bet you love it.
The Arlington Hotel Network in association with QuinnBet. As you join us, Roger Goodell just walking up to the podium to announce the Cowboys selection from number 23 overall in the first round, them having traded back with the Eagles earlier on. The Eagles trading up, of course, and while we were on a break, Chargers selecting the linebacker Keem Messidor. The Cowboys pick is in at 23, and it is slight surprise there, Malachi Lawrence.
Yeah, that's, you look at where the defense and where it was last year. Pass rusher was something that they were lacking. They got to stop the run. That was one of the things when it went after. They let Parsons go. He wasn't. Then me and Quinn Williams, another edge rusher, added it. Look, they're doing the right thing. The Cowboys have needed defense.
Doing the right thing. Yeah, I accept that in an overall sense. But is he the best defensive player still available on the board?
I don't think so. I think that there are other edge rushers around that area that could have gone. I think Malachi Lawrence has been touted to go to the Cowboys before, though. I don't know what it is. Obviously, University of Central Florida, so it's a slightly smaller school. They're probably looking at what he did. I mean, they're showing off his combine testing. I mean, 40-inch vertical and a 10-10 broad for someone of his size is incredible. So, like Brian said, they needed to get better on defense. Edge was like their fourth need on the list there.
So overcome there in the fan cam there. That's a wonderful shot. Usually the parents to cry and the players consoling the parents, but yeah, that has made his night a big way.
He looks very familiar to me. Is it the other Darnells that went to Seattle that they lost previously? Has that DeMarcus Lawrence, yeah? He was a Cowboy, went to Seattle, won the Super Bowl.
Big difference maker
for
Seattle last year.
Similar in terms of his physique and even he looks out of showing the best bits in the he just changed very quickly there as he rolled onto the stage. For the Browns, this is a bit of a wild card, isn't it? Like for the Browns, they can go many ways here because essentially they've done what a lot of people felt was the most appropriate thing to do, having traded back to 9, Connor, take the offensive line, but here now it's a case of surely it's the best player available.
And their pick is in, so they are
no messing about,
yeah, which is kind of in the pattern of the night. To be fair, teams have fairly flown through the picks and the trades have flown about the board as well, but nobody's actually been dwelling on the clock for too long. And we talked about the impact that just knocking the 2 minutes off the clock from 10 minutes to 8 minutes was making, but it seems like a lot of the time the team spent before was really kind of dilly-dallying. Like this is it's been a much more entertaining draft, not just in terms of the selections, but increasing the pace a little bit. I hope it's made it much more entertaining for people watching along at home. It certainly added to the buzz for us here watching it. I found it like a pleasant change of pace based on when we would have done it for the first time 3 years ago.
The first time 3 years ago in Cork, there was an abundance of trades forecast, and we didn't see one until I think it was 17 or 18. And I think the Vikings may have moved up, I can't recall, and they moved up for defensive end, and we all got very jolly. It was like chalk, it just went pick for pick for pick. To a certain extent, it did in the first top 10, Connor, with the exception of the Chiefs moving up to 6. But you're right, the quickness of teams getting the picks in. There was an article during the week, I can't recall where I was saying that the teams were trying to be more efficient with, because it was 8 minutes, as you touched on, every minute counted within those 8, and if they felt that the player was in, they weren't going to hang around waiting for potential bids to come in from other teams or trade opportunities. It was like, we'll fulfill. But what we've seen, in particular from 10 to 20, some teams are lightning quick. Let's get it in. We know who we want. We're probably surprised that he's fallen to us. He's not on the top listing. Let's not overthink it. Let's take the best.
Which is the way you would kind of expect it to happen, Craig. I mean, it's not like they're looking at these players for the first time when they're drafted going, oh my God. Like, they've done all the work. Yeah. They know who's on their board. They know who's the best player available to them, and they know who's hot and who's not in their world.
there's going to be a lot of teams who, when it comes to the beginning of January, when they are not in the playoffs and they have that high draft pick, they will start looking towards college. And the fact that their scouts are there throughout the entire season, they'll bring all the scouts in and they'll get all their information. And like you say, they would have known for months about this. And then you get to the combine and, there's just everything lives and breathes the draft after the Super Bowl. You then have that little gap for free agency and then bang, straight back in. And what you set your free agency based on what you think you're going to get in the draft. So you're right, these teams have looked at this for so long. And also the trades will have, they will know, they'll have lists of trades that could happen, might not happen, depending on if this player
all
and
been
that
calling
player.
each other and chatting about it non-stop,
Exactly.
and they have any number of scenarios based on what might or might not be available and where they would or wouldn't be willing to go. It's the teams that actually make a rash move on the night that nearly always end up regretting it, right? That's where it goes wrong. It's teams that generally do the obvious thing to consistently get the best talent over time because they know what the value of a pick is, They know what the value of a position is, they know what the premium positions are, and they know what the premium positions aren't, and they don't suddenly get excited in the moment and get caught up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been a wild ride already. We're at pick 24.
Well, we're on 25, which is the Chicago Bears. Brian Pauls is on the clock. I can see obviously you're lit up like a Christmas tree over there now.
It's been an unusual draft for me because not normally used to the Bears being good enough to have a pick in the low 20s in the first round. Usually it's over very quickly for me. I don't have the same level of anticipation. So I'm getting quite excited here because there are still some quality players on the board. Dylan Tiedemann might actually fall to the Bears if the Browns don't take him here.
What's your go here?
I don't know, actually.
I actually think this might be a wide receiver because they do need to get better in that.
Yeah.
Concepcion.
Omar Cooper on this list. Oh, there we go.
There we are.
Whoa.
Not quite a Lorenzo Ball fist bump, but
I'm excited for Kieran Boyd because he always said Casey Concepcion would go in the first round, and he's been proven correct.
Yeah, the next wide receiver outside of that top three, like I said earlier, a really good player. Interesting. There was a lot of talk around, obviously, Carolina looking at him, with him starting off at NC State there, obviously Texas A&M after that. He can drop the ball, which means he'll fit in quite well with the rest of the Browns receivers. But yards after catch, he is phenomenal. Such a quick player. In the SEC, just took the ball and just ran with it and was gone. The amount of touchdowns this kid was able to pick up was incredible.
Connor, Dylan Tiedemann was suggested for as many to go to the Vikings in the NFC North. Is he going to land in the NFC North with the Bears?
I'm thinking, and it's hard to predict where Ryan Paul's draft board would have been. Like I would not think any of the offensive linemen that they might have liked are going to be available there. If that's the way he was leaning. Peter Woods is another guy that's been mocked to the Bears a lot. The D tackle. Yeah. I don't think they would have expected, to your point, Tiedemann to be there. Everybody had him going to the Vikings, and I would lean towards Tiedemann, I think, based on Bears have always said they're in best player available mode right now, and he looks to me to be the best player available. Unless they were to take a flyer on Jermon McCoy, they do need extra help in the secondary. Although they were very injured there last season, they like Tyreek Stevenson. They would hope to have Jalen Johnson back for a whole season, and they'd hope that Kyler Gordon overcomes his injury concern. So maybe that's not where they're leaning. They don't want another injury worry in the secondary, and maybe they won't take a flyer on McCoy. But yeah, I think Tiedemann makes sense to me. I think that's the right thing to do for Chicago in this spot.
Yeah, safety I have as one of their needs. I do have edge as well, and I'm looking at Keldrick Fort, who's still available there. Montez Sweat had a good season last year. They've got Deo
Odienbo.
Thank you. And he did not play amazingly well, wasn't available for a lot of it as well. Daniel Hardy came in for the other eight games. He didn't record a single sack. They need to up their sack numbers, especially with the caliber of quarterback that they do face in the NFC North.
They haven't taken a defensive end or tackle any higher than the third round in the entire time that Ryan Poles has been there. So they haven't invested a lot of draft capital in this position. This is the anti-Howie Roseman approach.
It is. I just want to quickly go back to the Browns because I completely forgot about a little tidbit that I had, and I was waiting for them to take a wide receiver, and it completely slipped my mind. The last 1,000-yard receiver that the Browns had that they drafted was Josh Gordon. And now they're looking at a player in Casey Concepcion who is around that 1,000 mark, and that is something that they needed to pick up on. So that was just a little tidbit that I had in the back of the brain that obviously got overawed by all our Bears talk and the thought of
all the Bears talk that I forced upon
yes.
you.
But it probably led to the fact that they could take offensive line in the top 10, kind of, because they knew, bear in mind the nature of all the wide receivers that have been suggested as potentially going into the first round, in particular from 16 onwards. They knew they were going to get one of the wide receivers, depending on who that came from. Obviously, he was the one that was at the top end of the list. The Browns, you've already suggested them as a dark horse already tonight, so maybe look, it's
For a team without a quarterback, bravely suggesting
they have
that the
quarterbacks.
Browns.
You just don't know which one of them they're going to go with. Like, a lot of people, generally, I know Tony Cheek said already, but there is a lot of people still feel that they're going to give. It's not really what they want to hear, but they're going to give Deshaun Watson another opportunity to try prove his worth after when many thought last year he was essentially finished there. There's a lot of talk that he will get another opportunity to prove.
What are the chances that Deshaun Watson has anything left?
You probably, as you said earlier, you probably would rather go with Shador because you know Shador is going to give it all. Like,
Yeah.
he wants to prove himself. He's scorned by what happened this time last year on draft night. There's how far he fell back. He's out to prove himself.
Cleveland have mentally, if not financially, moved on from Deshaun Watson. I mean, the GM said as much. That it had been a mistake. The most expensive mistake in the history of the NFL, the worst trade in the history of the NFL. Even if he was to light it up, it's next season, which is not going to happen. It's still nowhere near to pay back all that guaranteed money and the reputational damage that it did.
And the impact across the league, because
Yeah.
every GM and organization were disgusted by the contract because it reset the whole boundaries.
Well, to the point where it led the NFL to be investigated for potential collusion, because it does seem like there was a degree of contact, should we say, between front office personnel and a determined decision, although it didn't reach the threshold of actual collusion, never to allow a contract of that nature ever to happen again. And so it has been, despite the best efforts of agents negotiating on behalf of other quarterbacks who've negotiated their contracts in the wake of Deshaun Watson. Nobody ever got that kind of guaranteed money.
And I have said, even taking away the contract, his play, bear in mind how good he was at the time when the trade, and I know he took the year away from Texans. I always felt, I don't know if they were in the running, I thought the Falcons was always a better fit. In terms of his play, what we've seen. Cleveland, for me, was never going to work. And Baker Mayfield still kind of stands by, he's absolutely got rid of me too soon. Look at what I've done in Tampa Bay. Still kind of holds that kind of disgruntlement, shall we say.
Baker took them to the playoffs, won a playoff game for the first time since Bill Belichick was the coach there, and got scant reward for it. And they ditched him at the first sign of any discontent in Cleveland, and have been regretting it ever since. The Bears pick is in now, and we'll shortly see Roger Goodell announce what that will be. We're kind of leaning towards defense, possibly Dylan Thieneman here. Although, Ryan Poles hasn't tended to invest an awful lot of first-round draft capital on the defensive side of the ball. He's only taken one defensive player in his drafts there to date, so this would be a change in direction from what the Bears have done in recent drafts. It took Olsen Lubman last year, Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze with their 2 first-round picks the year before. Goodell's approaching the podium now to put us out of our misery and tell us who is going to be going to Chicago in the first round of the 2026 NFL draft.
With the 25th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Dylan Thieneman.
There we
There we
go.
go. They were showing it on the screen. With Brisker had obviously gone, CJ Gardner-Johnson had gone, two pretty much starters on the safety position for the Bears. This makes a lot of sense. Like I said earlier when we were talking about Thieneman, he's a versatile player. He can play in any position. He can play the free safety, he can play the run safety, whatever he needs to do. So it's an immediate upgrade to that.
And you've brought in Kobe Bryant, so you now have a quality safety room and a Super Bowl winning safety from whom to learn as you're adjusting to the league. Makes perfect sense from the Bears' point of view. Again, like widely touted as the Vikings selection in the first round. Pretty much every mock draft I saw had the Vikings taking Dylan Thieneman. So interesting that he ends up, to your point earlier, Brian, going to an NFC North rival in a position of need, and that's that's the other side of your decisions on draft day, right? It's who you take off the board and who you leave for your rivals.
Well, it's interesting because Nick Nunman from CBS Minnesota, who you would have interviewed last year, he was over here in Dublin, made a good fortune. When we took a break that time, I just checked my phone.
He interviewed me, I think you'll find.
Well, he did interview you.
He did.
Yeah.
It was on CBS.
That's correct. And there was an article and a report about it. It was fantastic. But he sent me a photograph in the last few minutes because he's there on site. And he's a very disgruntled picture of him after the Vikings made their selection. He's not impressed with Banks being their selection whatsoever. He was hell bent on him being the guy because he reached out to me earlier.
And Banks was a player who was mocked to the Bears quite a lot as well. So it's funny how that one kind of
They
flipped around.
flip-flopped.
Yeah.
But this is the thing now. This is going to be like the conversation next season. If he has a really successful season with the Bears and the Vikings are defensively, there's going to be conversations about. Bear in mind, the Vikings actually don't have a GM in situ right now either.
Yeah.
So. The Buffalo Bills on the clock. New head coach and Joe Brady in situ head coach, I suppose, coming in from the offensive coordinator. First draft as head coach. Brandon Beane under pressure.
Yeah,
slightly.
this is a huge draft for Brandon Beane.
Yeah.
He's the guy who comes out swinging last year saying he was absolutely right to go all in on the defense, saying that the offense was exactly where it needed to be. Fire Sean McDermott after the offense badly lets down
Came out
Josh
swinging
Allen
after the fire
last year. And they talked about having done everything they needed to do on offense. And what's the first move they make in free agency? They take a wide receiver from the Bears.
Yeah.
So
DJ
he's got to nail this draft or he's going to be out the door. Like Sean McDermott basically saved Brandon Beane's job, or that decision was made to save Brandon Beane. Ownership backed Beane over McDermott.
Yeah.
And he's got to do this.
Yeah, and I didn't like the way it ended for Sean McDermott. Like, I know people out there are quite critical of continuous defeats in the playoffs. This year in particular, I thought they were extremely unlucky in the division round.
Yeah, and you gave Josh Allen the worst tools around him that he's had for years.
And the nature of how the press conference went about the following week, where they were essentially saying Sean McDermott's gone, and all this. They're referring back to decisions in the previous draft. I think it was around Coleman, the wide receiver, and they tried to put it on Sean McDermott.
Well, just as a thing, Houston are now next. So they've traded up 2 spots by the look of things to go up to 26, with the Bills dropping down. So now we move across to the Texans.
The Texans were a team that a lot of people had potentially trading out of the first round. That is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they need defensive tackle and offensive guard, 2 positions where the first round talent has already really gone off the board in the terms of guard.
Is this where Peter Woods goes? Because Connor, you suggested there that Peter Woods could potentially be in line for the Bears, and the fact that they haven't gone and taken, right? Whether the Texans are going right now that he's available, let's move.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, Banks and Woods were the two interior defensive linemen consistently mocked 1 and 2 in the first round. Texans pick now in, so they knew who they were moving up for. Obviously, otherwise, why would you do it in the first place? They must clearly have thought that somebody else was going to take their guy.
If you look at that best available, though, that none of those positions that are available, safety, wide receiver, cornerback, edge, none of those are positions that the Texans actually really need to address immediately. So unless they're taking an additional player for a position that they're not really needing right now, it does seem like a weird trade up, and it'd be interesting to see what they've actually given up to make this, because it's only 2 spots, so I can't imagine it was a lot, but there's clearly somebody that they did not expect to be available.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, so
a lot of people felt he was a second round selection.
I've got Chase Pasotis and Emmanuel Craignon.
Did they think the Niners were going to take him?
I can only assume so, because that's what they've jumped up above the Niners.
Or the Bills. Did they think they needed to put more protection on Josh Allen? I wouldn't have thought so.
And again, it's one of these trades that.
Did they think someone was going to come up in front of them to get the 49ers?
In the same way that the
makes
Chiefs
more
came up
sense,
earlier. It doesn't make a lot of sense, because the Niners don't need interior offensive linemen.
Extra third round pick.
They might have thought the Patriots
or
maybe the Chiefs would move up to try and take that lineman that we said that Andy Reid wanted earlier.
So it's actually a multifaceted trade, this one. So just as we're talking, the Dolphins have traded up as well. So there's a lot of movement at the end. But the Bills get 28, 69, and 167, and the Texans get 26 and 91. So a few moves and shades.
The Texans,
picking
moved that pick that the Giants gave them last year.
Yes, yeah, by the look of things. The Texans.
So the Dolphins are on the clock.
Well, their pick is already in, and if you're looking at the players that were on the board, I saw on the screen there they flashed up Daniel Jeremiah's best players available yet again on the board. You still got Caleb Longman there. You got, we said Jermod McCoy had that wide range, like people thought he could go anywhere from 11 to out of the first round altogether. He's still on the board. Still a couple of quality receivers there potentially, depending on how you ranked them.
Yeah, and we could look beyond Jamal McCoy as well, because people may make him fall even further depending on what they think his injury is going to be like going forward, and whether that's going to be a concern. You've got Chris Johnson, who a lot of people said could sneak into the first round.
And yet, like you've seen, to your point earlier, Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver, with a significant injury, and that he's recuperating from go higher than we had been talking about up until the last couple of days. Caleb Banks, to your point, with that foot injury, which is a particular concern for a guy in his position of his size, and teams willing to take risks on that. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Jamal McCoy go within the next couple of picks, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him fall out of the first round.
No, and that's the thing. If the injury concern is there with McCoy, the fact that the other two have been taken far ahead, but he is still falling, makes you think that people are not going to go there. So yeah, Chris Johnson, Avion Terrell, Colton Hood, all in play really here, because we are reaching the end of that first round where it does tend to open up a bit.
And Boston, again, that wide receiver with a lot of buzz around him, still on the board. We've only seen one running back go so far. So according to what we had expected in terms of how people were ranking this running back class outside of Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, Price is the other one, which was Love's backfield mate. Yeah, so but a lot of people have mid, second, even third round grades on him. So I wouldn't imagine a running back to go this high would be very surprising.
We've talked about it year in, year out as well, about how easily running backs are picked up with value picks on,
Fourth
second and third day of the draft. So many of those guys, even thinking from a Bears perspective about Kyle Monungai last year as a fifth round pick who was great value for the Bears. Those guys are out there, and people find them, draft in and draft out. Find running backs a lot easier.
Don't forget Scalabo.
I was waiting for you to jump in and say Scalabo. Open the door for you.
Well, the Dolphins, A-Chain is not going to get traded this offseason, despite some recent speculation. The GM at the presser last week was adamant once we are rebuilding, he is one of the stars that we do have left behind, and we need to keep some stars in the team. So they'll probably compliment him in the second or third round. But this could go either way now. This is probably a fortunate situation for them, because they've seen someone that they didn't see dropping. They've moved up, and we said there's so many holes. But defense earlier on, when we were talking about the fact where they went earlier on, I was suggesting with defense that Chubb is gone. Various other players. For me, it's a defensive pick, surely.
And Niners trading back, I don't find that surprising at all. I would guess a lot of the players that we had expected to go to them are already off the board, and they're not in any particular dire need.
No, and you look at what they've done. They've actually swapped pick 27 and 30, and then the Dolphins have got a fourth round in exchange for a third round. So they've sent the third round up to the Niners. So it's not a massive amount of draft capital that's exchanged hands here. But yeah, this is going to be interesting to see. Like you said, their defense has holes all over the place, so they do need help. I don't think
you may not see your Peter Woods go off the board at all tonight, kind of.
Yeah, potentially.
There you go here now.
Yeah.
So there we go.
He's one of the names you mentioned. Yeah.
So
that is also the Jermod McCoy fall.
This is the Jamal. Yeah. So I think we're going to see Jamal McCoy fall out of this first round because of the fact that this is the next cornerback up on the list. You look at his comp there, Tre'Davious White, just an all-round good cornerback here. It just makes sense to be able
San
to
Diego State.
San Diego.
Who
State.
knows what it means? Stay classy, Chris Johnson.
He remain in the nice weather. He just transitions over to the east coast of the country, but the weather will remain nice for him and his family.
He's just a bit light, I think. Sometimes he can be out-muscled, but he is quick, real quick.
He looks like a bit of a Spider-Man there with that outfit on, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Dan Marino's in the room there. Connor, high five everyone.
Quarterback was their second biggest need, so it doesn't surprise me at all that this is the way they've gone.
Jeff Haffey looking delighted with himself there.
So the Bills are back on the clock now. We're in saying that
Much
there's
more
been so
delighted.
many little moves in the last few minutes.
New England trading up.
So we've now got the Patriots on. I think the end of this first round has happened in exactly the same way as people said it was going to be, which is just trade central all over the place. Just
Well, this is the only parts of the draft where I think we all consistently called it right, where we said it would be trade central.
Was that more so because of the fact that there was another conversation with teams trying to trade out of the first round, and now teams are kind of mixing and matching and swapping picks here, is because the needs that they have are supplied by players that are falling into certain positions. The call of a lifetime. Philadelphia Eagles.
so
It's a tweet by the Eagles crediting themselves with making
Yeah.
the call. Of
Get back in there, mate. It's about you. I think
yeah.
I thought we had that with Mike Vrabel there,
No.
Stephen.
I'm shortage of confidence in Philadelphia.
Any gut reaction to where the Patriots are going to go?
wide receiver or edge, and you've got Omar Cooper Jr. there.
You head coach?
Keldrick Falk is one edge player that I thought would go higher than this. So oh, okay.
Another protector for
Yeah.
Drake May.
Which it's odd because obviously
Some of these have gone off kilter now the last
Yeah.
couple of minutes. Yeah.
so that's 2 years in a row they've selected a tackle in the first round.
I would suggest that having looked at the playoff performances, like they had a great season, they got the Super Bowl. But you did, like Connor, particularly, you were talking about the day before the game, and the fact that Drake May hadn't played well in the playoffs, and you could argue a lot of that was down
And
to
their
the
O-line
lack of,
did play well.
yeah,
in
the lack of
playoffs.
protection. They were absolutely holes in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And you don't want to jump all over Will Campbell again, as the Seattle Seahawks pass rush did, and they were playing against one of the better defenses we've seen in a long time. Nobody else had answers for that either, to be fair, but it was clearly an area of weakness, and yeah, so we're seeing
It
now
was
them
greatly
trade
exposed.
up to try and address it.
Now, they never got a handle of it at all during the Super Bowl whatsoever. Like, we were 15-0, but it was a 15-0 that felt like a 30-0 Super Bowl.
That's both Utah tackles now off the board in the first round, which a lot of people did say would happen. They are both very, very good football players, but
All right, I'm saying that the Chiefs now on the clock because there's been so many movements in the last few minutes.
I think we might be back to the original order, and the Chiefs are now, yes, on the clock.
I mean, we're at pick 29 here, and we're still comfortably inside 3 hours. This is real hurry-up offense by NFL standards. They've really motored through
And
this
Chiefs
draft.
pick is in already. Like, look, we went to 4-5 last year, and we went to 10-5 the previous year. So this,
Chiefs, Niners, Bills, and Seahawks, the only teams remaining to pick now in the first round. These 4 picks are going to go. There's going to be no more trades at this stage. No, you would think nobody's going to trade out of the first round. We're done with moving
no,
around.
don't see any reason why anybody would move up to the fourth round. Like, the only suggestion was the Cardinals. If Ty Simpson
Was still there.
they
Yeah.
may have jumped up, but that's
Well, it's who's the next quarterback to go off the board now. It's one I guess we'd be looking forward to on day 2. Is Carson Beck going to go in the second round?
I don't know. A lot of the other quarterbacks seem to have third round grades on them. So you're probably looking at Carson Beck. You're looking at Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller as well, who obviously suffered through injury. The problem is I think that there was a steep drop off from Mendoza down to the rest of the quarterbacks. Obviously, Ty Simpson was the de facto number 2, but that seems to change between different people's opinions as well. So you could see anyone go really at some point on day 2, but you would imagine the next quarterback does go on day 2. And there are 2 teams, the Jets and the Cardinals, who are in prime position to take one.
Now, I'm still reflecting on that Ty Simpson pick too.
So am I.
It's
Colin.
just
So
so
am I.
interesting.
I think I called it, but it didn't come as a shock.
Well,
for
you
me.
put your money where your mouth was. Credit where credit's due.
It's a lot of podcast listenership along the way. Now, there was rationales as to why we do it, because picking a 13, they're stacked. They're a team that, no matter what the circumstances came out tonight, will be challenging for the NFC West, certainly the NFC West, and even going to the Super Bowl and challenging the Seahawks to get back there. And they didn't necessarily have to go and take a best player available. They could. They're in a fortunate position where may not be selecting that high again. Bear in mind, that is not because they had a poor season. That was the Falcons' trade last year where they moved up for Pierce, which unfortunately hasn't gone according to plan with the off-field antics that he's had. But the Rams probably felt it was the appropriate time to get a quarterback in, planning for the future. Matthew Stafford maybe 2 more years.
But as Brian was saying earlier, Craig, I think what's interesting now in that QB room is, do the Rams, and they've talked about maybe would Kirk Cousins was somebody that they liked. Do they now go out and get a backup quarterback to back up Stafford, or do they have confidence in Ty Simpson as a first-round pick? They put that marker down on him now to be there and ready to play should Matthew Stafford miss game time, which is by no means inconceivable next season. So this will tell us a lot now as to what they do here, as to whether they bring somebody else into that room, or whether they're expecting him to step up if needs be.
Yeah, and all you've got to kind of think about is what you said, and that is the age side of things. Father Time can catch up with people in different ways, and not just in the way that they play, but also in the injury side of things. We heard about his back injury at the beginning of last off season. He obviously played the entire season, and really, I guess, in a weird way, put the team on his back and carried them through the season. But all it does take is one play, one thing to go wrong, and you're going to have to put someone in. I think their other quarterback in that room is Stetson, so it's not, he's not an ideal secondary behind there. But if there's one person that you do trust to get the best out of any quarterback, it's Sean McVay and the way that he does things. So I think that they will be very confident in having Ty Simpson in there. They'll probably bring in a veteran in camp to try and see what happens. But I think Ty Simpson will end up being that backup quarterback.
Learn from one of the best. Let's be fair, Matthew Stafford, MVP this year.
Yeah.
Unfortunate not to go to the Super Bowl, beaten by a great side in the NFC Championship game. But
I
seems like
do,
the kind of right guy that you want to be around and lean off and earn as much as you possibly
I
could.
do think when you say that, we looked at that NFC Championship game last year and we said, and I think we were right, and certainly the Super Bowl and the way it panned out would give testimony to that these were the 2 best teams in the league. And here's the Chiefs selection coming in now. Oh, and Peter Woods.
Well, I know across that Rams conversation, but you did say earlier, Conor, that we're having a conversation whether the Chiefs are going to move up for an offensive line, which was kind of touted all week.
Nobody was really there for them, so they leaned into defense.
Yeah, and you suggested they need to give Spagnuolo another weapon as well. There we go. We haven't seen anyone on defense tackles, which kind of reflected where everyone thought it was. The Dexter Lawrence trade, etc.
Yeah,
This has been one of the more predictable elements of the draft. There was only 2 D tackles expected to come off the board in the first round. It was either Banks or Woods first, depending on what way teams viewed the Banks injury. To your point earlier, Craig, it would have been a bit of a shock if Woods had dropped out of the first round. We just didn't necessarily expect him to go here.
No, and it's ironic that we're talking about Dexter Lawrence when there is a Clemson defensive tackle on the screen right now who has been taken. The defensive tackle wasn't a massive need for the Chiefs, but they obviously see something in Peter Woods to be able to take him that high. And
look at the color coordination here. Everyone else in the room in white, except Peter Woods in
There's a
black.
bit of breaking news there for you to look at there, Conor.
Jets moving up. Again, making an idiot out of me just when we said there'd be no more trades in the first round.
49ers are out.
The Niners trade out of the first round altogether.
Does this
Where
feel
are
like
we going
a
here
wide
now?
receiver?
This is going to be an eventful day tomorrow. This is the New York sports. Kind of 3 Jets players in the first round and 2 Giants.
Is this wide receiver? Yeah.
No. Cooper?
Cooper makes sense.
Boston?
As does Boston. I just don't know who else you would trade up for at this point. I'm not sure who's left on the big board here. But
this is back to it as well, to the point Conor made. Like they're inundated with draft picks. They can
manipulate as much as they need to.
orchestrate the board whatever way they see fit. They're probably looking at a wide receiver thinking he may go early in the and they picked him second in the.
They're second overall in the second round.
So the only concern is that the Raiders are going to take. The Raiders do need him.
They were first. They were first in the second round, I believe, because they've traded with the 49ers
Okay.
who now have the first pick of tomorrow.
So what was the concern then? Who's going to take their player?
Well, I'm just wondering if they
Seahawks.
jumped up above Buffalo, because the Bills don't have an amazing wide receiver room if it is wide receiver that they're going to go for here. So
the Bills trade down and then get jumped.
potentially.
That's like the
shocker.
first time. That's not
Yeah,
the first time
shocker.
that's happened. I'll go Omar Cooper.
Oh, nice one.
And there we go.
There we go. Nailed it.
And that's that. You're right in the sense of it's the second time it has happened where the Chiefs obviously jumped the Bills when the Bills traded back 2 years ago.
2 years ago. And they took Coleman and
Xavier Worthy.
Took Xavier Worthy. Yeah, and they took Keon Coleman, who obviously hasn't worked out, and now they've just been jumped potentially by the Jets if that was the way it was going to go. And the Jets needed wide receiver help. We did say that.
Yeah.
You know, they do not have a good wide receiver room outside of Garrett Wilson. And
we didn't necessarily see it pan out this way, but we did think
So tomorrow
they
night,
will choose a
Connor,
first round pick on a receiver.
midnight Irish time tomorrow night, second round. 49ers kicking off Cards. Yeah, it's just a mixture essentially of what we've just gone through tonight, with the exception the Raiders are picking up 4.
Ramsey is the wide receiver. So an interesting thing.
So 2 defensive players for the Chiefs. Kind of actually one of the interesting points we actually couldn't got away from here is the fact that many people felt the cornerback would be available at 9 to the Chiefs. They moved up to get him.
So who are the Bills taking here then?
I guess that they can go for the big-bodied receiver if they want to go down that route and go for Denzel Boston. But outside of that, I'm just trying to find the Bills in my sheet here. They still need
Do the
edge
Bills
help
have
as well. And
more than a feeling for Boston, you think?
Connor Bowles still cracking the jokes at
4
5 to 4.
There is.
We needed another song reference.
There are still 3 edge rushers with first-ish round trade, but it doesn't matter because they've traded out of the first round yet again. It's
Titans moving back.
Another trade. The Titans are coming
move
up.
back into the first round.
So the Titans are in there.
So are they now going to take a receiver?
They already took a receiver at 4 in Tate.
They did take Tate.
They take
So
Tate,
is this
that's right.
where they come up for an edge rusher? Or do they try and get ahead of everyone else on the linebacker side of things and take Jacob Rodriguez or CJ Allen? Because they are both there and there.
CJ Adams is interesting. Kieran Boyle texted me this week, said CJ Adams going in the 4th round. I said, I'm not sure about that one. He's been touted as a second round. So I'm convinced he's going to go in the 4th round. If he gets this one right, in the second half, pick the 4th round, and Kieran Boyle gets this one right, then I'm going to buy him an
Oh,
outlet.
he said Concepcion in the first round, and he said Allen in the first
And he
round.
said Proctor in the top 10, and he went, 13?
Yes, yeah, he did.
And he said CJ Adams will go.
Did he have Tyson top 10 as well? I think he might have, did he?
Potentially.
The one fella who knows anything about the draft. Not with us tonight.
No, we'll fly Craig over. Unfortunately, the budget's not stretching to a flight. Although he is coming back, he dropped me a text during the week. He is returning home to see his family shortly, which in turn means we have to go for points. Well, we do. I don't know where you're going to come.
Alex on the phone there.
Yeah.
I didn't see Brian David there. Did you see Brian David there?
No, I didn't. Ryan Edwards already had his treat for the day, so this does feel like a defensive player if Sauer gets his way, and maybe that is Keldrick Fulk or TJ Parker or Zion Young, the three edge rushers that are left. Or
TJ Parker.
TJ Parker, I think, was touted as a first-round talent. Keldrick Fulk falling as far as he has surprised me because I thought that he would go higher than he has. But
you're trading back in to get ahead of the Seahawks. You think you probably are looking at edge rusher then. They're looking.
Ben might get his Seahawks player.
He might. At this point, though, there is an argument to be made about the fact that teams trading back up might not be necessarily trying to beat anyone. They might be trying to secure that fifth-year option, which does become quite valuable for a lot of players.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Especially in positions where players take time to adapt to the league, right?
Yes.
Before the Titans pick, congratulations, you set a record for the first night of the draft. 320,000 people here tonight.
What's your hunch? I'm not going to go Allen. I'm going to go CJ Parker is my guess.
TJ Parker seems like, yeah.
TJ Parker.
The Tennessee Titans select Keldrick Fulk.
Oh, there you
There
go.
goes Keldrick Fulk.
You called it.
I just thought that he would go a lot higher.
He was
than-
like
than-
terrible, like in the 18
He
to 24 range.
was. I saw him mocked so many times in that kind of sweet spot, right in the middle of the draft. And he's lasted all the way up until the second to last pick. And, edge rusher is one of those premium positions where you are willing to go up, and it is their number one need. They have Jermaine Johnson, who's coming from the Jets, and they have Oladeju, who only managed 6 games for them. Jacob Martin's coming from Washington. None of their edge rushers projected in the top 100 defensive players at edge. So that there was a lot of scope for them to improve here, and it just makes sense for them to pick this player up nice and early before anybody else gets there.
Seahawks now on the clock, Brian, with the final pick of the first round.
Sure, they're laughing anyway. They're the champions. They can pick wherever they wish, go whatever way they wish. Can't go defense, sure. That defense is already too good.
Well, Edge was.
They've lost a lot of players in the
Yeah, they have,
offseason.
yeah, yeah.
Lost,
That's all
last
happened.
year they've
Win a
lost.
Super Bowl and you lose half
the
your
Super Bowl
players.
tax.
Yeah.
You saw it happen to the Eagles with a great defense a couple of years ago, and it's taken
Need to
time
go
to
edge?
rebuild. Well, Allen would be a fit here either, right?
Yeah, I think Edge.
Ben, call it first. Who are the Seahawks taking here?
Running back, corner is a need as well after losing Drake Wood.
You could go guard here as well.
After Brazil
It's a long night for Ben to wait for a guard. I mean, we have to wait.
It's not a sexy pick, but we have seen lots of not sexy picks this evening.
I'm hoping for the back.
And they will be delighted that this is the final selection of the night.
Good luck.
Fulk struggling to get the cap on there. He's trying to tighten it up.
Seahawks will probably utilize the full 8 minutes.
just to stretch out the first round to the max.
Well, I said like they skinned 45 minutes off last year's times.
Who announces our pick? Or do we get a special?
No.
No?
Depends on whether Commissioner Goodell ever gets out of this bear hug from Keldrick Fulk, who's probably
Strong.
probably on the over of
Strong,
the
strong
seconds
finish
per,
to that tackle there.
seconds per hug.
Yeah. Definitely holding there.
Did they come up for that? That's the Bills now popped out at first round. So the Bills are picking in the Titans spot tomorrow night.
Yeah, so it's an interesting beginning of the second round there, because the San Fran, then you go to Arizona, so two teams in the same division picking back to back, Buffalo, Vegas, and then the Giants. I think Giants could move down there without that third round pick.
not what you expected to see them. So yeah, they may stay.
It is. Yeah, no, that's true. That after everything that the Giants have done today, they could just prove me wrong and do whatever they like tomorrow.
Do we have a tally on the number of trades in the first round?
It's quite
Busy
extensive
first
to see,
round.
isn't
Like,
it?
I don't know what the over-under was. I don't know what the record is for first round trades. I wonder, are we in that vicinity with the amount we've seen?
But the la-
I mean, no blockbuster moves, but just a lot of movement.
And we haven't had any players go. AJ Brown's touted as potentially.
AJ
moving.
Brown was dead till June the 1st now because of his contractual situation. Kayvon will be gone tomorrow night.
No, potentially, yeah.
Especially if Reese is in as an edge. Where does that leave Kayvon to though?
Yeah.
In Green Bay. That's where it leaves him, Connor. As Kieran Boyle has been quoted for the last week, you're going to get traded to the Packers over the course of the weekend. Although we shouldn't listen to Kieran. He promised us certain players in the first round. He hasn't delivered.
There's no trade, Ben, so the pick is in.
They couldn't get us home before 4 o'clock. We'll hold that against them. John Schneider high-fiving the lads in the room. As well he might, given the job he's done over the past couple of years.
Very casually dressed, isn't he? Just going around high five and everything. That could be like he's got the swag.
They took
There's 2 buttons undone.
They took 1 minute to make that pick. The team were just absolutely bailing through the pits, forcing them in.
Great setup on the stage, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, the draft looks fantastic. And as Roger Goodell said, 320,000 people in Pittsburgh, a record number attending the draft as well. We just upped the ante year on year. We were marveling at what Detroit managed a couple of years ago and went to another level next year. And again, the same in Pittsburgh, putting the pressure on in Washington for the 2027 draft.
You fly direct to Washington, Connor. Just putting it out there.
You have to fly direct to Pittsburgh from May as well.
You
A little bit too late for the draft. But
Yeah. Saying let's go very easily. Let's go. Let's get back.
Yeah.
Hit the bar.
Let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
smell the pints at this stage.
Huh?
We can smell the pints at this stage. Frothy one waiting now in the Arlington just as soon as we get done with this. So no pressure, Seahawks, but let's
Just-
fucking go.
Just before we end up, the Monahan has put great job, guys. Been with you all night. Now get some sleep.
Good
Now
man.
get some pints. I think is the first thing.
And we really appreciate everyone that's tuned in tonight. It's been a good audience number. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's late into the wee small hours for people to join us and follow the whole way through the watch along. It's been great fun for us as it always is.
Yeah.
But you gotta love it, and we're very lucky to have so many people who love it along with us and to be able to share our love for this game. A lot of energy on this pick.
I don't know how you
Couldn't
can.
make out any of that, but it was
Right.
very exciting.
Oh, I thought that was the player. Roger's just going to say, yeah, whatever.
This bump from Ben off screen there, Jadarius Price.
The running back,
Running
he called
back.
it. In fairness, he called
Jeremiah
it.
Love's backfield teammate Ben did call it, saying that they could go running back. That was his most likely pick with the 32nd pick of the first round.
It does feel like a reach, but it's a reach for a position of need.
Well,
In the
it's
same
another
way
one Kieran Boyle had said, like, he was hearing a lot of hype around, and that, obviously Jeremiah Love took a lot of the plaudits and a lot of the spotlight, but this guy can get it done.
The one thing that a lot of people have said about Price and why he is so low on so many people's boards is just the fact that because of Jeremiah Love, he doesn't actually have any starts in college. He never started a game. He had one game in 41 where he actually touched the ball more than 15 times. So you could take that as there's not a lot of tread on the tyres, but you could also take that as you're getting a raw player who actually hasn't seen a lot of the field.
I mean, the production levels go up here, but his ability is there and he'll deliver.
Yeah.
He's not going to break down. Yeah.
With Zach
Back
Charbonnet
into
obviously
it.
injured, it makes sense.
And the fact that they've lost Kenneth Walker as well, obviously,
Yeah.
was a huge part of the MVP of the Super Bowl, immediate replacement. Charbonnet with the 1-2 punch. What price would you have gotten that? Did you?
Hey, well, the price was right for the Seahawks, and we've seen the love train come into the station. We know that Styles win fights, and we'll see whether Styles wins when he gets to the NFL. It's been a win for us tonight, though. A win for Pittsburgh. Really energetic, entertaining, and exciting draft with a lot of movement, a lot of trades, as we said, a lot of big surprises, not least Ty Simpson going to the Rams at 13 overall. That'll be talked about a lot more by us and by many others. We'll take time to digest everything on the Irish NFL show. Thanks for joining us live from the Arlington Hotel, and thanks to the Arlington for the hospitality and for all the support they give us and have given us on the night here. Karen Carroll and his team have done us proud. You've done us proud watching us along here at home. It's 4 a.m. in the morning. I think time for all of us to get to bed, whether we choose to make a pit stop for a pint along the way or not.